That one hammered deep toward right. Castellanos will turn and watch that sail out of here. Lars Nootbaar has hit his 7th home run, and the Cardinals get a run back. It's now a 5-2 Masyn Winn. He unloads. That's not Dreary. Deep left. Masyn Winn's hit a home run, and the Cardinals are back in front. Swing and a drive hammered to right. Burleson has put the Cardinals in front. A line drive home run. And there's number 16. That'll make it a 10-7 game. Masyn Winn with his 2nd RBI of the game.
I love this group. They're doing a really nice job of just not giving in regardless of what's going on. And they've done it all year. But, yeah, we give it 5 in the bottom half there, and there's zero panic in the dugout. Guys knew they had to put their heads down, take really good at bats, take their walks, and just hit their way out of it. And they did a really nice job against Nola and the rest of that pen.
Are you buying in? 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show with Alex and T-Bone on BK. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Your time check, 11:07. Time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Just wanted to throw that out there real quick.
You never do that, and then we're just going to throw that one out there.
11:07. Time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. We've got Mark Sweeney coming up in less than 30 minutes. So we've got a lot of content to get into, very little time to do so. Here we go on BK and Ferrario. Alex, the Cardinals are winning a lot.
11:07.
The Cardinals have won 10 of their last 11 games. They are doing so in different ways. Mostly, it has been great pitching throughout. Now, yesterday, that was not the case. Sonny Gray had a clunker. It was a terrible start by him. He gets pulled early, justifiably so. He was horrible. And then you go to the bullpen, and the bullpen did what it's been doing, man. They didn't allow a single run the rest of the way, and your offense just kept chipping away. And then they pulled away. And they pulled away from one of the best offenses in the sport. They did so on the road after losing, Alex, 12 of their first 14 road games. They have won 7 of their past 9 road games. They went on the road at Washington, faced an ace, and beat him. They went on the road at Philadelphia, went through 3 of their 4 best starters, and won 2 of the 3. You did it with a really close playoff-style win, and now you do it with a slugfest yesterday. They are showing you different capabilities of how they can win. You're seeing Alec Burleson start to produce. Ivan Herrera hasn't missed a beat. Wilson Contreras has been one of the best hitters in baseball for the last month. Masyn Winn, since T-Bone called their asses out for putting him in the 2-hole, has been amazing with an 1,100 OPS. Lars Nootbaar just keeps getting on base and hitting homers. That's his entire profile right now. They've had the best defense in baseball since the very beginning of the season. I mean, this is a lot of things to get excited about. Have they answered the questions that you had about them, Alex?
Yeah, they have, because the last question that I had remaining was, what are you going to be like on the road? Because you've done it on home field all season, and it's been hard for me to deny it. But I know, I'm getting a little emotional already.
The wings? The wings are getting into your system.
It's very spicy in here. Plus, they made it like 95 degrees in this room, so it's a damn sauna in here. But what they've done on the road, it's hard to deny now. I mean, you've done it. Look, the Nationals won. I kind of made an excuse for that one. It was a fun win, but Washington wasn't great. But you still got the job done, and that was something you couldn't do last year. But watching that Phillies game, and last night was impressive because a concern always is, what do you look like when you lose a game? And you were in the midst of a win streak. What happens when you lose one? Because a 2-1 loss where you went 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position, man, that could be deflating. And then you got to play a game 4 hours later with a doubleheader. But, man, they went out there and walloped Aaron Nola. And it is hard for me to look at this team now and find a weak spot. And I know that sounds odd because I've been a Cardinals naysayer for a very long time. This team just feels different. Every area of their offense feels legit right now. Their pitching has been a healthy surprise, and they're making right decisions in games. So, yeah, I'm as close to putting that conductor hat on as you can be.
Can I tell you a moment that I really liked? Because it was the 3rd inning. It was the 3rd inning last night, T-Bone, where I was like, okay, that's the offense that we've seen for most of the year, and it speaks to the different ways that they can win. What I'm talking about is Nootbaar homers to right center. That was the leadoff batter in the 3rd inning. Masyn Winn then has a walk, and it was a hell of a plate appearance by Masyn Winn there. Donovan doubles in Winn, so Donnie is standing on second. Arenado comes to the plate. Arenado just has a really good at-bat and moves the runner over. Contreras then grounds out to third, scores the runner. So you homer, you double, that gets you 2 runs. You were down going into the inning 5-1. Now you're down 5-3. You found yourself back in it in the 3rd inning because of those unselfish at-bats. Herrera then singles, and then boom, Burleson homer, you're up 6-5. Those unselfish at-bats by Arenado and Contreras, you're 4 and 5 hole hitters right now. Guys that could, especially Contreras, like he could be batting top 3 in most orders.
Maybe number 2.
What it is, yeah. That to me really stood out about the way that this team is playing. Everybody seems to trust the guy behind them. And I don't think that has been the case for most of the past 2 seasons. Where right now, you can, honest to God, look in this lineup, and I think you can say if we did the circle of trust with the lineup instead of the bullpen, I trust 8 of the guys in the lineup on a consistent basis right now.
Yeah.
That's what feels different to me.
Yeah. I mean, the offense absolutely feels different. But, I mean, honestly, I kind of trust a lot of the pitching staff right now, which seems crazy to say. And I know
I trust the team.
Yeah, I know Sonny Gray got lit up yesterday, but that's a rare occurrence with him. And I trust Matthew Liberatore now. Andre Palante, the exact same. The bullpen, which I was complaining about 2 weeks ago, they've got about 5 guys that I don't get nervous about. The tight butt cheeks don't happen when they come out of the bullpen. That's the scary part about this team right now. I don't know where the hole is. I don't know where their weaknesses right now.
I don't think they have a great rotation. I think they have a fine rotation. I think it's good enough that you can win.
But you can win with a fine rotation if your offense is
absolutely
borderline elite.
Every team has a weakness. Even the Dodgers this year, now it's because of injuries, but their rotation is a massive weakness for them right now. There are other teams that, like Philly, defense ain't great, man. It's just not great. It's fine, but it's not great. There are other teams across Major League Baseball that you view as a huge contender that if you talk to their fan base, there's something that they are afraid of. There's something that they look at and they're like, that's the thing that's going to get us beat down the road. The Royals, who you're going up against this weekend, right? They've got some real questions in that lineup. There's like a top 3 that's pretty good, but then beyond that, there's not a ton of depth to their lineup. So everybody's got something.
Yeah.
The Cardinals, something is their rotation. That you're just always going to look at it and say, I don't know. I don't know if I believe in this. But the bullpen's been really good. I trust them. The offense has been great. And, man, this defense is really just something special.
Yeah.
You've got an above-average player at basically every position defensively outside of when Ivan Herrera is behind the plate, probably catching.
And I think because you've got such a great defense and your offense has been so solid all season long, it covers up that wart that is the pitching staff. Like, if you don't trust it or if you look at the names and you're like, really? That's what you're getting excited about? Fine. And I can understand that. But when your defense is as great as it has been and your offense is putting up these amount of runs, man, you can handle pitching staffs that aren't the greatest.
Yeah, they are capable of winning in multiple facets, right? Like the offense, game 1 didn't come through with the big hit, but what's the pitching staff do? I know they lost, but the pitching staff keeps you in the game. What happens in game 2? Sonny Gray clearly doesn't have his stuff, gets rocked around. What's the offense do? They come back in that game. And I go back to what Chip said. I don't remember when it was. It might have been in the 4th inning after they came back and took the lead in that game off of Aaron Nola. Chip said on the broadcast, man, 5-1 last year, and you felt that game was over. Really, even maybe the last 2 years, their offense in 23 was good. I don't think it was this deep. And to your point of, like, the circle of trust with the offense, yeah, there's probably 7-8 guys that you look at and you go, okay, I know they're going to give you a competitive at-bat where they step up to the plate. Maybe they don't come through, but they're going to make the pitcher work. They're going to give you a competitive at-bat, and you just believe they're going to bring somebody in. Last couple years, it probably stopped after the 5 spot.
I've been making this comparison for 5 years, and eventually it was going to hold.
Don't act like you knew this was going to happen.
No, I mean, I thought it was going to, and if you just keep hammering the same point enough, eventually a broken clock is right at least twice a day, right?
I think you need
the Cardinals' offense, yeah, that might be true too. The Cardinals' offense is actually doing what they did in 2013 now. This is what the 2013 offense felt like in the moment, where you do have a couple of dudes that are legit, like, stud players. Matt Holliday that season was awesome. Matt Carpenter that season was fantastic. That was the year that he broke the doubles record. You had a really good year of, speaking of one-to-one comparisons, Yadier Molina hit 300 that season. That is basically what you're getting right now from Ivan Herrera. And then if you want to make another comparison, dude, Alan Craig's season was kind of similar to what you're getting right now out of Brendan Donovan. Really high average, got on base at a good clip, decent pop, but it was more about the doubles than it was the home runs. It's kind of Brendan Donovan-esque, what you're seeing from them. So I do think there are a lot of similarities between, finally, that 2013 offense and what we are witnessing right now from the 2025 Cardinals.
Congrats to you for sticking to one take for 4 years and finally getting there.
Now, that team had
John
Adam
Walker's
Wainwright.
Pete Cosmo?
Basically, yes.
Great defensively.
Yeah. Now, what you had that season was Adam Wainwright, who finished second in the Cy Young voting. Many here in St. Louis thought he should have finished first in the Cy Young Award.
Matthew Liberatore's going to be there.
He threw 240 innings that year, went 19-9 on the season, 5 complete games. He was an absolute horse.
Well, Eric Fetty's 4 away.
Yeah, the Cardinals don't have that on their roster right now, so that is one thing that you are certainly missing. But I do think that this bullpen could be kind of similar to what you had that year bullpen-wise. That was an awesome bullpen that year. There's some similarities. Yeah. I don't think this team's going to be playing in the World Series, though. That's another difference between the two, probably.
So you're not a Cardinals fan, is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. He is Alex Ferrario. That is Tanner Hendrickson, and I'm Brandon Kiley. In 15 minutes, we're going to talk to Mark Sweeney. He's been on the Cardinals games over the course of this road trip. Saw a lot of really compelling baseball. We'll ask him what he thought of what he saw on the road trip. But coming up next, we want to hear from you. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Alex, I asked this on Twitter today, at BK Sports Talk over on the tweets. Are you excited about watching Cardinals baseball at this point? Just a very simple, generic question. Do you get excited to turn on the games each and every night right now? I will give you the results to that poll, and I do want to hear from you on why you aren't buying in if you are somebody that is still a little bit cautious about this team. We'll get into that next year on BK and Ferrario. Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. I totally understand if you are still skeptical of the St. Louis Cardinals. It is understandable given what the last 2 years have been. And I think there are a lot of people, Alex, that are just saying, you know what, I'm out. Until they change what the leadership is with this team, I'm out. I'm not going to buy back in. But if you're purely going on what we have seen on the field and you are willing to give this team a chance this season, I think it's fair to say you're in. I am excited right now to watch Cardinals baseball on a night in, night out basis. It's fun for me. Alex, I can only speak anecdotally from my experiences. My friends around town are now asking questions and talking about Cardinals baseball again. It's been all blues up to this point. And there was a little bit of a lag between the end of the Blues season and coming around to, all right, I'm excited to talk about Cardinals baseball again. But I think we've gotten there. I think this past series, really the road trip was the thing that allowed for that to happen. So I asked this on Twitter. It's at BK Sports Talk. Are you excited about watching Cardinals baseball at this point? We have about 300 votes so far. 81% say yes. They are bought into the Cardinals. 20% say, nope, still need a little bit more time. Alex, for you and T-Bone, where are you at on that? Are you bought in on the Cardinals and you are excited to consistently watch them?
I am bought in on the Cardinals. They are something I look forward to watching every single night now. Like, I find ways to make sure that I'm able to pay attention to this. Now, of course, we've been doing that over the years for our jobs, but you can't deny that at points over the last few years it's been like, all right, I'm checked out.
What, you didn't enjoy September of 2023?
No, when they go down by 4 runs, it's like, cool, this team's not coming back, and I'll find out what the box score was at the end of the game. That's not the case anymore. Like, I'm genuinely curious what the offense is going to do every single game. Like, that's the part that really has me bought in. We talked about the skepticism still of this pitching staff. I don't really know if it's something you can rely on from start to finish, but right now you're enjoying the ride. But, man, the offense is something that gets me excited. And why? Because all of these guys are the future for the Cardinals. This isn't Paul Goldschmidt, what he was a few years ago. This isn't Nolan Arenado doing all of the damage. Wilson Contreras is hot right now, but he's not the reason this team is picking up all of this offense. It's Burleson, it's Scott, it's Winn, it's Donovan, it's Nootbaar. It's the guys that 3 years from now we're going to be talking about potentially helping this team push for a World Series. So, yeah, I'm bought in. And I think the biggest reason for me is this offense does not rely on 1 or 2 guys to win games for you. When 1 or 2 guys go quiet like it was where it had to be Goldie or Arenado, and if they weren't hitting, this team wasn't winning. Now, if 3 guys don't hit, there's 3 other guys that are going to come up with a big hit, i.e. Alec Burleson last night. So, yeah, I'm officially bought into this team by saying I think they should be a playoff team.
Yeah, I'm bought in on them being a playoff team. Now, I don't know what that means when they get there, because as much as I like what we are watching, like, I enjoy seeing their lineup. They've got a bunch of fun players in this lineup. They've got, as BK has said, the 2013 offense. I mean, they just got everybody that's above league average. I don't know if they have a superstar. That is the one thing I am skeptical of, but they're clearly showing, hey, if you've got 7 guys that are above league average, and maybe 8 if Alec Burleson gets going, you don't really need a superstar. You're just going to beat a team by death by 1,000 cuts. And then their rotation is fine. Like, they are a good baseball team. I don't know if they're a great baseball team, but they are good. And I don't think there's a great baseball team here in the NL Central. So I think they can still make the playoffs, and I think that means winning this NL Central division.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. We've got a lot of texts that I want to get to here. We'll also check out some of these answers on the YouTube page as we get them as well. YouTube.com/101ESPN-STL. From the 314, guys, my skepticism is still there. Still not bought in on the pitching. Our offense has shown that it can hang in any series, so I think that's fair. Yeah. From the 314 as well, I have no debate on if the Cardinals can build a good team. I am skeptical, though, about their willingness and ability to build a great team. I want to see them stretch the budget to get top talent. Otherwise, your ceiling is just to win the division. That is my fear, and that is my hesitation. And I think, T-Bone, this is something you brought up during our pre-show meeting today. I think there are some, I don't want to speak for anybody, but my assumption here is I think there are some that see what the Cardinals are doing as, yeah, this is more of what it's been for the last decade. Sure, they can go out there, and even if they win 90 games this year, what does it really matter? because they're not going to take that next step. They're pre-mad the way that you have been at times in the past, Alex.
Turning a new leaf.
They're not going to take that next step. There's no ability for them to win a World Series, so why even waste my time buying in during the regular season when they're going to win 90 games, get to the playoffs, get their teeth kicked in by one of the true contenders, and then we go home with the exact same process as we've seen for the past 5 years. I think there are some, and I would assume this texter is in that camp, that fit into that category.
And I totally understand that. I mean, I lived there for the last 4 years, and frankly, I mean, there still is a piece of me that wants to see this team extend it to the next level, but it also feels like you kind of have a come to Jesus moment where you look at it and you say, we know what this ownership is. They're not going to reach past an area that they're comfortable with. And now you kind of have to lean into what they were trying to accomplish this year in terms of the youth movement, the development. You've got to try and find the stars in your system. I mean, again, I'm not trying to put the cart before the horse, but Ivan Herrera looks like a star right now for this team. Masyn Winn could be a star for this team. Victor Scott, a different type of star, but he could be a star for this team. So, yes, I understand that you get to the point where I don't want to see this team go get 87 wins and just get first in the Central Division and then get bounced in the first round of the playoffs. That's where you do have to extend it. But I'll treat the Cardinals like I treated the Blues. I'm going off of what the front office, the ownership group says. Doug Armstrong talked all the time about how, we're trying to retool this thing, and when we're able to, that's when we go out there and spend some money. The Cardinals said the same thing. We're going to try and reset the books. We're going to let some of these younger guys have runway, and then when we've done that, then we can look at maybe going out there and making moves.
That's why, though I don't know if they can make much noise in October, this is probably one of the very few times that I would say, okay, as long as you get to October, to me, it would be a success because they have pivoted into kind of a new era of baseball here in St. Louis. There is no Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, where you are pushing for a title. There is no Albert that's on the roster that you're trying to surround him and win as many titles as possible. They don't have those pieces. Now, maybe Herrera develops into one of those guys, but right now they don't. Their whole point of this year was, okay, let's figure out what we have. Originally, I was all in on the, hey, let's just go runway for everybody. Now I'm a little bit more of, okay, well, let's try and find that nice balance and maybe even just kind of make the decisions a little bit quicker because you should be a playoff team. But to me, making the playoffs for them this year is a success. I think when you're talking about 2-3 years down the line, especially if this year works out to be a playoff team, that's when you can start to pivot more towards the, hey, they got to be more than just a 90-win team that it's fun to get to October than to, hey, they got to get to October and make some noise in October.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service tax line to get involved in the show. By the way, Mark Sweeney, just a quick update on our scheduling. He'll be at 12 o'clock. We're going to move him to 12:05, so stay tuned for that. Cardinals broadcaster will join us coming up in about 30 minutes. From the 314, guys, we do this every year. We win a few games and people start to buy in. We won't exceed 7 games over 500 all year. I don't think we do this every year. I think the last couple of seasons, especially early on in the year, it's been an abomination. So much so that the season is over before it ever really begins. We get into the month of May and people are done and they never buy in because there's no reason to. They were 15-25. They were 10-25. Like, you get 35, 40 games into the season and you're that bad, your season's over. You're done. You can't win what's the old saying? You can't win the division in April, but you can certainly lose it.
Yeah.
The Cardinals find ways to lose the division in April each of the past 2 seasons. At this point in the season, the Cardinals are 24-20 this season. They were 19-25 last year. They were 18-26 the year before that. It's very difficult to overcome that kind of early season struggles, even in the National League Central, where it's not all that high of a threshold to be able to make it to the playoffs. That's, to me, the biggest difference. The Cardinals have given themselves a chance this time around. They didn't dig themselves such a hole that it was nearly impossible to dig themselves out of. That's what the Blues did. The Blues dug themselves such a hole that they had to go on a historic winning streak just to be able to find their way into the playoffs on the final day of the regular season. The Cardinals have placed themselves into a position where that's not necessary. They can actually just play their game, go like .550 baseball the rest of the way. You're feeling pretty good about it.
Burleson said it on TMA today. It's like, look, you just keep winning series and you're going to put yourself in a great position. And you've given yourself a little bit of grace because you lose a series here and there. Well, man, you've picked up stuff against the Mets, against the Phillies that I don't know if people expected you to do.
I think the idea that this team, like, they're not capable of winning a World Series, I do wonder how much that plays into it because Cardinals fans, we got this from the text line. I think it's an interesting one. Cardinals fans that grew up in the 2000s, Alex, a lot of Cardinals fans your age or maybe a little bit older, they've seen like exclusively good baseball for the majority of their life until the past 3 to 5 years, really. So this one comes from the 314. Guys, I'm still out on the Birds. It's really not the fault of the team on the field. You just covered how well they're doing and what they're capable of, but this isn't a World Series team. To me, if this team is playing like this come July and the front office makes a big move to force the team into the conversation, I would be all in. But until the front office and ownership shows me that they're willing to back this the way that we were in the past, I can't get back into it like I was during the 2000s and the 2010s.
That's where I feel like a lot of Cardinals fans are at. And it comes down to the front office.
I agree.
Is this your speech?
No, I'm trying to figure out how to frame this without sounding like a jerk.
Get the squirt bottle. Oh, we don't have the squirt bottle. Damn it.
I don't know that it's ever going to get back to what it was in the 2000s.
You mean it's not going to get back to having a generational unicorn player like Albert Pujols?
Yeah, and having on top of him multiple other Hall of Famers at the same time. And I don't really know what you do with that as a fan. Like, if you're just saying, hey, it's got to be that or I am unhappy with my team, I don't know that you're ever going to be happy with this experience. So that's up to each individual fan on how they live with that and what that does to your fandom. But if it is that or bust, I would say you might get an experience with that in a season the rest of your life.
Well, because you have to understand where ownership is. And
baseball. Baseball has just changed, and that was. I'm a Chiefs fan, right? Let me put it this way.
What?
I know right now I will never experience this again.
Yeah.
This is it. Like, if you were a Patriots fan in the 2000s, that was it, and I hope you enjoyed it because it's never going to feel like that again, most likely. If you were a Steelers fan in the 80s, or if you were a Cowboys fan in the 90s, that was it. You're a 49ers fan when Joe Montana was going through his run. That was it. And the odds are severely against you ever experiencing anything like that again as a fan of that specific team. So while you're in it, dude, enjoy every second of it, eat it up, and don't ever forget how great it was. Mm-hmm. That's the 2000s for the Cardinals. Now, you had it in the 80s as well. That's almost a different sport with the way that everything was structured and the way that the Cardinals were able to operate, all of that stuff. I just don't know, if you're holding this organization to that standard again, I don't know if they're capable of that. And that's not me, taking shots at the Cardinals. That was just a moment in time that has passed, and I don't think it's coming back, man.
Yeah, well, and so that was kind of my question. 2000s, I can understand that. I mean, that's when you went after Jim Edmonds, Scott Rowland. That was a different...
I'm basically saying, essentially, if you want to call it this, 98 to 2013.
Yeah.
I think that was the era.
That's where I was going to ask.
15-year span.
When you say all in the 2010s, when did it feel like that they went all in?
I would separate it. It's like the 98 to 2013 range. And then 2014 to now is the next era, but you could really do 2014 to 2018.
Yeah.
It's kind of like its own individual 5-year span where things went sideways and then they haven't been able to catch up.
For sure. And I mean, I just, like you mentioned, that era of baseball, that was the Cardinals pulling off unbelievable moves of getting guys that were good elsewhere, but they were better once they got to St. Louis and they were developing pitching. I don't know if the Cardinals were very different back then with the exception of having Albert Pujols. They were still developing players. They were bringing guys in via trades, but they were guys that they were viewed as big-time players, but it's not like
they basically brought in Arenado and Goldie while having Albert Pujols.
Yeah.
Is effectively what it was.
Exactly, and then they were still churning through certain guys and bringing them up
Donovan,
in the system.
They had Nootbaar, they had all of those.
Yeah.
The thing that changed is you don't have Albert, and I've got some potentially bad news. Most of the time you don't have Albert.
Right.
Most teams in Major League Baseball never develop an Albert Pujols.
So it just
in the 100 years that they've been a franchise.
It was never like the Cardinals in the 2000s.
Like almost every team.
It was never like
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
My entire childhood, I never saw any player like Albert Pujols play for the Royals. Not a single one of them.
Yeah.
And I saw some great ones. I saw Carlos Beltran in the early stage of his career. I saw Jermaine Dye. I saw Johnny Damon. I saw some really good baseball players. And nobody lived up to Albert Pujols. Mm-hmm. Not a single one of them. That dude was different.
Yeah, it's just it feels like we're acting as if in the 2000s the Cardinals were the Mets or the Yankees that were just going out there and spending a boatload of money on players. It was not the case. They were making trades that were aggressive, but they were also just churning through players in their system, which is what they're trying to do now. It all comes back to Pujols. And I mean, I'm with you. I saw that, and I know it's never going to happen again. but you at least try and get close to it. And I appreciate the fact, I'm not happy that we're here, but I appreciate the fact that the Cardinals were honest about what they were trying to do, and they're following through with it right now.
Somebody in the YouTube chat, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. YouTube chat is available for you at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. Jake says, BK doing his best Mozeliak impression, talking down to Cardinals fans right now. I promise I am not attempting to do that. And if that's how it sounds, I do apologize. I am not trying to, like, you can be a fan however you want to be a fan. I'm just saying if you're holding the Cardinals organization to the standard that they need to get back to having an Albert Pujols on the field every year, I think that the odds are strongly in favor of you being disappointed every single season, because that guy exists once in a generation.
Yep.
Albert Pujols is one of one, man. You can make a pretty strong argument he's the best right-handed hitter of the past 30 years. And I mean, developing that guy is nearly impossible. People bring up Tavares, like, I have no idea what he would have been. The odds were strongly against him ever becoming anything close to what Albert Pujols was. You just don't develop guys like that. It's really freaking hard. So, I mean, ask the Yankees. They went, 25, 30 years really, between having Aaron Judge and a guy that people consider to be generational. I would argue maybe otherwise, but in Derek Jeter.
Back to the Jeter slander.
So, it's not an easy thing to do.
Back to the under the bus.
Back to the Jeter slander.
Maybe that would buy me a little bit of good grace.
No,
the Cardinals fans that don't like me.
Ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
All right, coming up in 15 minutes.
A-Rod, but I was like, he wasn't developed by the Yankees.
Questions and answers, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. Some news went a little under the radar at Illinois. T-Bone's excited about it. Can Bret Bielema do at Illinois what Kirk Ferentz has built at Iowa? And would that be a good thing if you're an Illinois fan? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals earned a split of their doubleheader against the Philadelphia Phillies yesterday as they take 2 of 3 against the Phillies. It is the first home series that the Phillies have lost this season. Cardinals are off today. They'll be back in action tomorrow as they start a 3-game set at the Kansas City Royals. Tomorrow, Andre Plante takes the mound for St. Louis. Cole Reagans will get the start for KC. 6:40 will be first pitch. The Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. CMLauto.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alex and T-Bone on BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. If you want to check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/101 ESPN STL is the place to do so. Mark Sweeney joins us in 20 minutes. So there was some news that kind of went under the radar over at Illinois. They re-signed both of their most important coaches. So Bret Bielema has re-signed to a long-term extension, be the head coach of the football team at Illinois, and Brad Underwood was signed to an extension as well to be the head coach of the basketball team. T-Bone was excited about both of those extensions taking place as our resident Illinois fan here on the show. T-Bone, as I was thinking about this, I mean, you look at what Bret Bielema has done. Over the past 3 seasons, he had an 8-win year where he had a bunch of those exciting upsets as well, including, what was it, the triple overtime win against Penn State in 2022, if I'm not mistaken. And then last year, you had just a really great season, a top 20 finish, first time that has happened for them since 2007. I mean, one of the best seasons by Illinois football in the past 20-plus years. My question to you, T-Bone, because I don't know what the ceiling is for Bielema. Clearly, 10 wins is in play. I don't know what it is beyond that. Kirk Ferentz is the guy that I always point to for programs like this that aren't traditional powerhouses, but that you could build into a sustainable winner that is consistently like just an annoyance, a pest for the top contenders in the Big Ten. Like Ohio State, they don't enjoy playing against Iowa, right? It's not a fun thing to do. Would you be happy if Illinois is viewed nationally the way that Iowa is by the time that Bret Bielema's tenure at Illinois has come to an end?
Absolutely, I would be happy with that because I was just looking at like what Kirk Ferentz has done with Iowa, and he's had 8 10-plus win seasons. If you can get to 10 wins, especially in the Big Ten now that it has expanded and added a couple of those Pac-12 teams and absorbed them, you're probably a playoff team. Now, I don't know, and I guess this would be where maybe some of the question would be for Illinois fans is I don't know if you can really expect him to ever build a true championship contender. But I think he can always build not always, but I think he, in his best years, can build a team that can get to the college football playoff and at least have you dreaming about what you could potentially do. And I think for Illinois football, that is really exciting because I remember the Lovie Smith era, and trust me, your dream was 3 wins in that time. So I absolutely believe he can do that. I think he's built up the program. He's doing a good job of getting wins in the transfer portal. He's now starting to recruit a little bit better by adding in a couple of 4 stars. I think he even was on the list for a 5-star, and they ended up losing out, which I'm not surprised by. But I think he can be what Kirk Ferentz was for Iowa. Just make you a constant 10-win program that teams look at and go, okay, this is not going to be a cupcake. Ohio State's not going to look at Illinois and go, well, this is an easy win on our schedule like they could do when it was Lovie Smith and everybody before that.
So this upcoming year, there are real expectations for the Illinois Fighting Illini. I think people are viewing Illinois this season pretty similarly to the way that Mizzou was viewed going into last year. What I mean by that is
10 wins.
Illinois is coming off of a big year, and they return the vast majority of their production, including the quarterback position. Not everybody. Pat Bryant, big part of that team last year. He's now gone. He's gone to the NFL. T-Bone, I don't think you have seen this yet, but Circa released their very early over-unders for win totals this season in the Big Ten and in the SEC. We'll get to Mizzou's here in just a minute. What do you think Illinois' over-under is going into the 2025 season? Alex, what would you guess their win total is heading into the 2025 season?
Ooh.
Give you a little bit of context. Penn State is listed at 10. Oregon and Ohio State are both at 10.5. Those are the top 3 teams in the Big Ten heading into the season.
Yeah, because I was thinking 9.5.
I was thinking 9.5 as well. Oh, is it like 11.5? I think we're going 12.
It's like 7.5.
7.5.
Oh my God!
Oh, that is some BS if I've ever seen it. I couldn't say my real reaction on air.
I get it.
What?
That is hit the over.
I would hammer the over.
Western Illinois, Western Michigan, Purdue,
Win.
Rutgers,
Win.
Maryland,
Win.
Northwestern,
Win.
We're at 6 without really even having to break a sweat.
And you got...
What am I missing here, boys? What am I missing here? This is a hammer on the over, right?
Yeah.
Am I missing something that's obvious?
This is a T-bone lock.
No, man. I feel like books never lie. It's going to be a 7-win team.
This feels like the easiest win total that I've ever been able to bet, and I feel like I'm missing something.
And the only thing, but I wouldn't even think that this would be enough because you mentioned they return most of production. They're returning most of production on defense. They're returning most of production on offense. Like most of their offensive line is back. Surely the wide receiver room is not that big of a question. Sure, Pat Bryant is a major loss, but they went into the portal. They got a couple of interesting names. Like they got, I think it was Ball State's leading receiver last year. Sure. Like they've added interesting names. I'm shocked that this was 7.5. Like I could have, if they said 8.5, I could have seen that. I would say 9.5 because I even look at some of these like. I think USC at home is a win for Illinois. I don't think USC is building a program. Lincoln Riley is on the verge of being fired. The only losses for me are home against Ohio State, and then that's the only one that I'd say guaranteed loss. And then I think there's a couple 50-50s. Like at Wisconsin will be a little bit tough. At Washington, because you got to go out west, it's going to be tough. And then at Duke. Even then, if you flip all those as losses, that's still not to that 7.5. That's ridiculous, Circa.
Duke's going to be a really tough one. I actually think that might be a loss on their schedule. I know that sounds crazy. They got a big-time quarterback that came in. That's a tougher game on your schedule than
I'm hammering the under.
Giving it credit for.
I'm hammering the under. Books never lie.
Just because we're doing this, again, SEC odds were released as well. The over-under win totals from Circa Sports, and you can get that at the Circa Sports Illinois app. Mizzou, what would you guess their over-under is for the upcoming season?
9.5.
The top one in the SEC is 9.5. Alabama, Georgia, and Texas all listed at 9.5. So just for context there.
So I'll go 8.5.
I'll go 6.5.
6.5.
Jesus, do you think they're worse than
Mizzou's
Illinois?
bad?
They have a bigger question mark than Illinois. They don't have a quarterback returning.
It's the same. Central Arkansas, Kansas, Louisville, Massachusetts, Vandy, Mississippi State, Arkansas. That gets you to 7. Yeah. Again, hammer the over. Those are 2 for 2. You're going to win yourself some nice money.
Under for Illinois, over for Mizzou.
No
I would
chance.
take the over.
That's how you win a lot of money.
Local programs. In 15 minutes, we'll talk to Mark Sweeney. Questions and answers coming up next here on 101 ESPN. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. I've got an article that I just pulled up. This comes from Seth Wickersham that I want to read a piece of for you guys. This is an excerpt from an upcoming book, it sounds like. So,
an upcoming book.
Yeah. Quarterback Caleb Williams was so concerned about being selected by the Chicago Bears in 2024 that he and his family weighed blowing up the entire NFL draft, consulting with lawyers to figure out a way around the league's collective bargaining agreement while also considering signing with the UFL, according to details from an upcoming book. Quote, Chicago is the place quarterbacks go to die, Caleb Williams' father told Seth Wickersham. It continues from there.
Not wrong.
Bears GM Ryan Poles stood firm, telling Williams, quote, we're drafting you no matter what, end quote. That left one option. Caleb Williams and his father could publicly attack the Bears in the city of Chicago, hoping that it would make a situation untenable, similar to what Jack and John Elway had done with the Baltimore Colts back in 1983. Caleb ultimately was concerned that if he did try and make the Bears refuse or to pick him, and then they ended up refusing to trade him, it would make a tough situation worse. In the end, Caleb Williams told Wickersham, quote, I wasn't ready to nuke the city, end quote. So all of the rumors pre-draft were true. It was all accurate. Him not wanting to go to Chicago, him thinking that was the worst case scenario, like all of that, it was right. That's crazy, man. I wonder what this is going to be like for his Bears teammates to read stuff like this.
Teammates? What do you think Chicago's going to react to?
Oh, they usually take
I think eventually, like, you probably adopt the player. He's now one of yours, but man.
Oh, no, I don't think Chicago fans are that willing to give grace.
I would be crushing that guy up in Chicago radio right now. I mean, that's just some of this is ridiculous, right? Like the whole, I'm going to try and leverage.
Quarterbacks do go there to die.
Sure, they do go there to die, but that was like the best possible situation he could be drafted to among quarterback-hungry teams that draft. And they had wide receivers. Now, they had to fix the offensive line. Now, those guys did nearly get him killed. But he didn't have any leverage. You're going to go sign with the UFL. Newsflash, Caleb. I'm not sure the UFL is going to be around for your entire rookie deal. Like, what are we talking about?
Do you think he would have been happier if the Washington Commanders drafted him? At the time.
No, it says that he wanted to go to the Vikings. He said, quote, I need to go to the Vikings, he told his father. Let's do 10th. It, his father replied. But both Caleb and Carl knew that a trade to the divisional rival was extremely unlikely. So that's where it's at. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line.
I do too. 4
questions and answers from the 314. Guys, if the Cardinals were to buy at the deadline, what are you hoping that they would acquire?
Oh, this is fun because I've come up with my checklist already.
Mine would be another starting pitcher.
I think you probably need, if you're building for a World Series, I think you would need a number 2. If you're building just for the playoffs, I think you're probably fine with your rotation. I think the 2 biggest things I think they're going to need, I still think they probably need another bullpen arm, just because the more the merrier. And I would probably say left-handed. JoJo's been good of late, but we've seen JoJo kind of goes through ups and downs. So I'd say another left-handed reliever. And then I would say probably an
backup shortstop.
No. I would say a right-handed bat that can play the outfield and potentially center field because Scott's not good against lefties. So I think there's a chance maybe you're looking at it of a platoon for center or to go play right field. If
I was
Walker
about to say,
hit.
I'm not taking Victor Scott out of this lineup ever.
Congrats, man.
I'm serious.
I'm proud of you.
I wouldn't do that.
Look what a month has done to BK.
I do like the idea, though, of having somebody in right field, or that could be just Thomas Sajaci. Like Sajaci goes in at second, Donovan goes out to right, and you don't have to waste the assets on going out to acquire that player that you're talking about. Yeah. So I think that might be the move. I agree with Alex. I would go out there and try to get somebody that can be a legit strikeout artist as a number 3 starter for me.
Because I think Steven Matz is the top end left-handed reliever for you, and I don't know if you need 2 of those guys.
It's strange to say this. What the Cardinals are lacking are things that I'm not sure they're even going to be inclined to acquire at the deadline. But otherwise, like the depth stuff, this is a team that's really deep right now. We'll see where they're at injury-wise and everything as we get closer to the deadline. But
you would have asked
right now, they're in a good spot.
You would have asked that question last year at this point. I think we would have had 7 different things on that checklist.
Well, I think they did everything they needed to at the deadline last year. Just it didn't work. I said a bullpen arm. I remember they acquired Sean Armstrong, and he was here 5 games.
He worked.
They needed a right-handed outfield bat again. They acquired Tommy Pham, and we said, hey, they need another starter, and they got Fetty. Like they accomplished everything they needed to at the deadline.
I continue to believe they had a good deadline.
Agreed.
Even to this day, I know people have looked at that Fetty thing and they're like, oh, that was a disaster. No, I think they got exactly what they needed. It was a win-win-win. Well, really a win-win-lose for the 3 teams that were involved in
White
that deal.
Sox.
The Dodgers won, the Cardinals won, the White Sox were a disaster. Coming up next, Mark Sweeney, Cardinals broadcaster for FanDuel Sports Midwest, will join us here at BK and Ferrario.
Here's Masyn Winn. He unloads. That's not Drury. Deep left. Masyn Winn's hit a home run. And the Cardinals are back in front.
The Cardinals just had one hell of a road trip. Alex, it was the biggest question most fans had. Can this team win on the road? They win 5 out of 6 against Washington and Philadelphia. Yesterday, they had that offensive explosion in Game 2 of the doubleheader. And Mark Sweeney was on the call for the Cardinals broadcast over on FanDuel Sports Midwest throughout this road trip. He joins us now via the Callier and Thompson hotline. Mark, we appreciate you taking the time on what I know is a travel day for you. What was your biggest takeaway from those 6 games on the road at Washington and Philadelphia?
Well, first off, guys, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been a great road trip so far. I think the off day is perfect after the doubleheader yesterday, and they continue another good matchup against Kansas City. But really, my takeaway is that the starting pitching and the pitching alone has really put them in a good spot. Yesterday, obviously, Sonny Gray didn't have his stuff, but you start thinking about what this team does. And collectively, they just play a good brand of baseball. They fight. They never give up. There's so many great cliches, phrases that this team is doing right in front of us. I think there's a little bit of a surprise, but I don't think it surprises them in that locker room.
Mark, on the offensive side, because I feel like that's where a lot of Cardinals fans are focused right now for how deep this lineup feels and for how, frankly, dangerous they seem to feel every single game.
Yeah.
What is it about this lineup that you think is having so much consistency?
Well, they never give in to their plans, and it shows. And there's so many teams around baseball, guys, and I watch it all over because I have to do some stuff on Fox. So I watch a lot of different teams and the way they go about their business. This team understands what they have to attack on every individual pitcher. And you can't say that for a lot of people because there's a lot of selfish at-bats throughout baseball that we see, guys swinging really hard, trying to hit home runs, and some guys should be hitting home runs. But this offense in particular with the Cardinals is relentless. And I think the consistency of Brendan Donovan has been a key. Lars Nootbaar at the top of the order. There's so many individual stories. I think Victor Scott has been one of the biggest surprises and given you great at-bats at the perfect time and shown his speed on the base paths. But there's so much to love about this offense, and it's someone else every single day. It's not just one guy. And when you have that and you do it early in the season, I think it really resonates with a lot of guys. A lot of guys feel pressure to step up and do their thing. And collectively, they're just a group that believes in Brant Brown and the hitting coaches that they're giving for the knowledge they're giving. And I just love the way they're going about it, especially what we saw yesterday when we saw a 19-hit attack, and this team just needed to fight back from a deficit that usually doesn't happen against the Philadelphia Phillies.
Mark, that's where I was going next. I'm glad you brought him up and Brant Brown. We've gone back and forth over the past years talking about hitting coaches and how much they impact players, and it really seems like Brant Brown has made a difference with these players. From somebody who has played this game to now being an analyst and talking with these players, how much has Brant Brown affected these guys?
I think the greatest thing is they've had a buy-in. And it always takes that, no matter what situation you have. There's some hitting coaches around baseball that are very good, and you don't get a total buy-in. I think Brant Brown has shown to this group that we're going to attack a certain area, and I want you guys to understand you're going to have success if you stay with it. You stay on an understanding of just don't get in, and you're relentless. So that has been an aspect that I think Brant Brown has brought. I knew Brant a long time ago and playing with him in the fall league when we were playing and trying to have our fun as well. This is a guy that's relentless in preparation. That's why you buy in with him. And I'll tell you this, you don't see him when you're on a road trip. I saw for 6 days, I saw him maybe for 10 minutes on the bus. And that's the reason why, because he's diving into aspects that he can give knowledge to these hitters.
We're talking to Mark Sweeney here on 101 ESPN. You see him on the broadcast for FanDuel Sports Midwest. He's been on the call for the recent Cardinals road trip, the last 6 games for them. Mark, this is a question that we're going to talk about a little bit later on. I'm curious your thoughts on it. For you, who is the biggest Cardinals pleasant surprise so far this year? You can take that in any direction, but the biggest pleasant surprise to you on the Cardinals is who?
I would say Victor Scott, because you hear what they say in spring training, but until that bell rings, until a team really dives into you and tries to just game plan against you, we're in a period of time in the season where this is where there's a lot of information out there. And Victor Scott has had a few games where left on left, it's been a struggle. But, man, this guy's relentless in what he's trying to do. We've heard he writes stuff down. He wants to constantly ask the right questions. But I know a lot of people that have done that before and haven't shown the growth that he has from last year and his experiences to this year. I think it's been a difference maker because we've seen the speed, too. When he gets on base, it's almost like, oh, well, here he comes. He's going to steal base. He's either going to score from first or he's going to impact it in a way that it changes the game.
Mark, on the other side of this, I know Jordan Walker has been going through a little bit of a cold streak these last couple of weeks. Have you noticed anything about his approach and at-bat, his presence at the plate over these last few weeks?
Yeah, there's sometimes where there's a lot of information and it's really hard to process at times. And I think, and what we're hearing, guys, and I love this because a lot of the coaches and Ollie Marmol are very true to talking with us with the process of what Jordan Walker's going through. And his work has been excellent. That does not mean it transfers into the game, and it's been a struggle for him. And when it's a struggle, that's when you say, well, he's young. It's not necessarily mechanical. Sometimes it is just the way you're thinking and how positive you can be when you're struggling and you're hearing so many different things. I'm proud of the way he has gone about his business because I'll say this. Guys, I was a pinch hitter, so I wasn't a guy that was known for a defender. But being able to separate your at-bats and then also do well and continue to be better defensively, because that catch he made at the end of the game the other night was spectacular. It came from nowhere. But he's done a really good job in the field. That being said, Jordan Walker's best version of himself is the total package. And I think offensively, it just looks to me like everything's not synced up, meaning the lower half and driving your legs and your upper body, because their exit velocity and so many things we talk about, when he squares it up, you know what happens to it. It just needs a little more consistency. And sometimes that takes a little longer than a lot of people want to wait for. But Jordan Walker's continuing to put in the work.
Mark, you've been around this game forever. I mean, you had a 14-year big league career. You've now been around it as a broadcaster, and you've seen guys struggle the way that Walker has. He's still incredibly young. How is it, whether it be a coaching staff, a team organization, how do you kind of go through the question of what is best for him? Is it to get everyday at-bats? Is it to take a step back and get a little bit of time just batting in the cages, or to go down to AAA? Like, in your experience, what goes into some of those decisions and what is ultimately best for a player?
Well, they're constant conversations because an organization understands that, yes, Jordan Walker's young, but he's also done things in the game of baseball that warrant him getting an opportunity. I'll say this, guys. If you're hitting 180, everyone knows this isn't going to work and it's going to sustain for a long time. But the more important thing is this team's winning. And we've heard about the runway. We've heard about all the things that they're going to do. It's easier to do when your team's winning and Jordan Walker's struggling. If the team was losing and Jordan Walker's struggling, those are different conversations in the front office, in the coaching room. But they have a lot of trust in Jordan, and we hear that. It's not my words. They have a lot of trust in Jordan, and they need a better version of himself. You never know when it's going to click and what's going to happen. So those conversations are definitely being had. But I also realize that this team continues to win and they back Jordan Walker all the time. This team is close. And I think that's what's needed when you're struggling in this game, because every one of us, if we've played a long time, realize we've gone through these tough stretches. And it's hard mentally. Individually, you go back to your hotel and you're staring at the walls and you're saying, when's it going to change? I think Jordan Walker needs to continue to do that, and they need to continue to have conversations.
All right, Mark, final question for you. We're talking with Mark Sweeney, Cardinals broadcaster for FanDuel Sports Midwest here on BK and Ferrario. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about which Cardinal still has a little bit more to give, and there aren't a lot to choose from because most of them are producing in a big way early in the season. And we kind of went with Alec Burleson, who going into yesterday had like a 650 OPS, and then he hits the home run, goes 3 for 5, has a fantastic game last night. What are you seeing from Alec Burleson right now at the plate, and do you think we could see him go on a stretch similar to what it was in the first half of last season?
Guys, I don't know if you remember it, but he had a left-on-left situation in the game yesterday, the second game, and he struggled against lefties. And you go back to the second half last year, he struggled against lefties. But Alec Burleson can hit, and I know that. But he put on an outstanding at-bat that changed a lot of things. And sometimes for a lefty hitter that doesn't face a lot of lefties, and they have that because of your history, you need those left-handed at-bats. And he needed that one yesterday. It was a two-strike line drive to center field that drove 2 runs in, and they were important runs. But that's magnified because he simplified it. He understood what he was trying to do. And this guy can hit, man. You go through times where you're struggling. Last year, he wasn't killing it at the beginning of the year. Then he got caught on fire. I think that's what Alec does, and he understands his situation. But every single one wants the at-bats against both righties and lefties, and he has that ability. It's just a matter of him getting that time and coming through in big situations like he did yesterday.
Hey, Mark, it's been great to be able to catch up, man. Thanks so much for hopping on with us today, especially as you're traveling through the KC airport. Really enjoyed your call on the games over the weekend, and hopefully we'll talk with you again soon.
Guys, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And another big series against Kansas City. I can't wait to watch.
No doubt.
Mark.
That's Mark Sweeney. Appreciate his time joining us here on BK and Ferrario. You saw him on FanDuel Sports Midwest. He was the in-game analyst with Chip Carey. I really enjoy him on the call of these games. I think he's done a good job kind of inside baseball, but that's not an easy spot to be in as an analyst when you're not with the team every single day. Like you said, he does some stuff for Fox. He lives out of the market as well. But for him to just be able to jump in, and I thought he broke down the games in a way that it felt as though he's just been with them all season long. Really good work by him, and really good work by the team to give him a hell of a lot to talk about over the last week or so.
Absolutely. And I find it fascinating when you get different voices of guys that play different positions in Major League Baseball, and especially a guy like Sweeney mentioned. Like, he wasn't an everyday guy. He was a pinch hitter. He was a guy that would come in late games. So to get that perspective, especially on Jordan Walker right now, that's where I think they excel when you get those types of guys on the broadcast, because they all provide different perspectives.
Absolutely. And his perspective on Jordan Walker was interesting to me, where he's like, hey, listen, it's not easy. He's going to come out of this, but it's probably going to take some time. Yep. And that's kind of what we've been saying in recent days. I do want to talk, we'll talk about it later on today, about Alec Burleson and what he could potentially mean for this lineup. If that dude is now locked in, and listen, it's a small sample size. It's been like 3 days of him being a good hitter. Otherwise, he has not been particularly productive so far this season. But if he's able to lock in, that opens up a lot for what you have in this offense. If you missed any of our conversation with Mark Sweeney, be sure to check it out after the show today on the podcast page. 101ESPN.com and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all presented by
Schaefer Door Company.
Coming up next, we listened to some Toronto sports radio earlier today. They had some fantastic callers, as you can imagine, as this team is collapsing against the Florida Panthers. We'll talk about it next and hear some of those calls here on BK and Ferrario. All right, so Toronto Maple Leaf fans, they're big mad today, Alex, as you can probably imagine.
Love when Canadians get big mad.
Things are not going well for them. Craig Berube called out his team last night, their lack of effort. They lost 6-1 on home ice. They are now down 3-2 in the series. That was that Game 5, similar, like the Blues had that big Game 5, right? I mentioned in the time. Best of 7 series, teams that win Game 5, they go on to win 80% of the time. Blues nearly found a way to overcome that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Toronto has that same kind of metal inside of them. So they're now down 3-2 against the Florida Panthers. I think this is probably going to 6 games, and Florida's going to win it.
Yeah, this is going back to sunrise. Toronto's not winning.
So today, on Toronto Sports Radio, Koliakovo's show, their final hour was dedicated to callers. So I was like, I got to hear some of these. I got to take a listen. Let's see what it's like. Now, Toronto fans are generally incredibly nice. So a lot of them were just, it sucks. The team's just not very good, blah, 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 blah. There were a few of them, though, that I thought were pretty good and worthy of our time. So let's take a listen. Let's hear the first caller on Toronto Sports Radio today.
In my opinion, that's not the game of hockey, man. That's an embarrassment. Embarrassment to the franchise, to the fans, to the city. I don't know how you guys come out there after all these years. We give you the world. You ask for everything. You get everything from the practices, relaxed dress code, to music, to this, to that, to the shimmy at practice, all over the memes, to doing whatever the heck you guys want, the world, the contracts, the no-move clauses, the new depth, the new management, the depth around them, the defense, the prospects, the picks out the doors, the GMs. The list goes on. Who the bleep do you think you are coming out with that performance?
Who the bleep do you think you are?
We give you the world. Who do you think you are?
All right, let's hear the second caller.
I am freaking 56 years old watching this disgraceful organization play hockey. I'm not going to swear in Italian, but I'm going to use a phrase, una vergogna, which means an embarrassment. I cannot believe that after Game 4, you played a horrible game. Not only did you come back to Toronto to play Game 5, you played even worse than Game 4. At the end of the day, there is one man who is standing in this organization, and it's Brendan Shanahan. He is the only one who has doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down on this core 4.
And finally, caller number 3.
Okay, guys, this is going to be a little different today. This is an open lair. Dear Maple Leafs management, as a passionate supporter of the Maple Leafs, I write to express my profound disappointment following the team's performance in Game 5 against the Florida Panthers. The 6-1 defeat was not merely a loss on the scoreboard, but a glaring reflection of a lack of leadership, effort, and accountability from key players, particularly Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner.
Called out the dudes.
What a great letter.
Yeah, this is Tim from Hamilton. Look, I thought having my Tim Hortons coffee spilled on me this morning was going to put my day to ish, but this one may have set it over the top.
All right, so as you can imagine, Toronto fans not super happy right now with their team. Alex, I wanted to approach this more from a national perspective, especially when it comes to the Blues. What does this mean for the offseason?
Oh, man.
Because, dude,
blow it up.
Mitch Marner has 12 points in 11 games this postseason. He's been good for them. He was terrible last night, but he's been good for them.
He was good in the first round for him.
Austin Matthews has not scored a goal in this series so far. Can't really do much about that, but you can't bring back Tavares and Marner if this is the way that you go out again, right?
No, you absolutely cannot. First off, I think what will happen is I think Shanahan's going to be gone because, as you heard in the open letter sent to Toronto Maple Leafs ownership, you can't keep running back the same product and expect it to be any better. And Shanahan has been the one. Like we talk about the Yzer plan, this is the Shanahan plan. Shanahan,
good, yeah.
Shanahan plan.
Yeah,
It didn't sound good when it came out, but he stuck with this core.
That was good. Give him credit where it's due. That was good.
It really was.
That was not that good.
I just didn't know if I should go
It was
with
like a 6 out of 10. It was at least acceptable.
I like a 4 out of 10.
I didn't know if I should have went with the Shanahan plan. Never mind.
Shanahan plan was good.
Anyway, he's the one that's run it back with the same core for every single year, and he gave extensions to Nylander, extensions to Matthews, and it makes sense. You can't do it anymore. And then once the Shanahan plan goes, suck it, T-Bone. I think they have to move on from Tavares and Marner. Your core 4 needs to become a core 3. It needs to be Nyes, Nylander, and Matthews. And now you've got $21 million, $22 million with those guys to spend elsewhere. It's not just the fact that Austin Matthews isn't scoring. You've got no depth of offense. Like, the offense is coming from Nyes, Nylander, Marner. That's all. And it's defense. They've got 4 guys. We complained about the Blues defense. They've got Christopher Tanev, who's 35, who's locked up for the next 6 years. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who is 33, who is locked up for the next 5 years. And Jake McCabe, who is 32, locked up for the next 6 years. 4 of their top guys, or 3 of their top 4, are 33 and older. So if I'm Toronto, yeah, we got to take a different blueprint with this Toronto Maple Leafs. Now you got to start to add depth rather than worry about the top-heavy side of things.
On the plus side, one of those guys has a no-move clause, another one has a no-trade clause, and 2 of them have modified no-trade clauses, so at least they're easy to move.
Yeah. Luckily, 2 of those with the no-move clauses are both free agents, so it should be an easy no-move away from this one.
I'm talking about TNF.
The defenseman? Oh, yeah, you're screwed on that front. You're where the Blues were 2 years ago, where it was like, there's no moving on from this. You're where you're at until you can wait these contracts out.
On Tavares, does this do anything for you as a Blues fan? Like, if the Blues go into this market this offseason and say, we're targeting a second or a third line center, that's what we want to do, and we talked about all of the different options. Sam Bennett is obviously like chief among them, but then you've got Tavares, you've got Brock Nelson. You could go down a rung and go to some of the other free agent options. Does his lack of playoff success with Toronto change at all your opinion on the Blues potentially signing him in the offseason?
I don't think so. I mean, lack of playoff success, sure, but this guy, since he's been with the Toronto Maple Leafs, have scored 17 goals with the Maple Leafs in the playoffs. And mind you, they've only made it to the second round twice, and he scored 17 goals. So I actually think he's produced in the playoffs. He's not great defensively, but as a second-line center, you've got other guys that can take over those roles. Yeah, I would still, if Tavares is interested, I would still look at it, because this is a guy that, again, scored 38 goals this season for the Maple Leafs, has scored 5 already in 11 playoff games, almost a point-per-game player in the playoffs for the Maple Leafs. He's not the problem. The guys that are the problem. This is why I'm more and more skeptical of people that want to go give Mitch Marner the money. I think Marner needs a change of scenery, obviously. The pressure must be getting to him. But Marner had a very 2 years ago Jordan Kyrou-esque game. And you're relying on Marner to play 23 minutes a night and pick up offense for you when he's not doing it.
What is the comparison for Marner in other sports? Because, I mean, you look at the numbers. Here are his last 3 full seasons. 97, 99, and 102 points. Plus 23, plus 18, plus 21, plus 18 on the ice. The guy has been unbelievable as a regular season performer. He's a consistent 30-goal scorer, and he's consistently posting 60-plus assists per year. You can't ask for much more as a player. And yet they get into the postseason, and they pee down their leg every single time. And he's consistently not scoring goals in the playoffs. 2 goals in 7 games, 1 goal in 7 games, 2 goals in 11 games this year. Now, he's distributing, like he's producing, but his points are all coming from assists. Again, those count, those matter. That is a worthwhile thing, but you need somebody to score. Yeah. Ultimately, that's the name of the game, and he is not a guy that does that very often or very well in the postseason.
Kind of feels like what Clayton Kershaw's been, right?
I don't know that he's to that level.
I mean, when you're putting together back-to-back 100-point seasons, you're a pretty impactful player.
I guess that's
You're
true.
One of the best players in the regular seasons, and every single season you're up there with McDavid, Draisaitl, Austin Matthews. Because the other one that came to mind was Aaron Judge, but Aaron Judge, that's a goal scorer that doesn't score goals in the playoffs. This is a guy that does everything or should be able to do everything in the regular season. He's a Selke Trophy candidate. He's an assist maker. He creates offense. He's not doing any of that, and he's making bad plays. I'd say Kershaw is probably a comp to it.
Harden? James Harden, maybe? I mean, he's a... When you think in the future of who are you going to compare to choke artists in the NBA, the guy that you bring up for our age range is going to be James Harden. But he is this era's choke
Harden's
artist.
Viewed as a defensive liability, and I don't think... Marner is that in the playoffs right now, but in the regular season, he's a Selke Trophy candidate.
Yeah. Harden also just doesn't score the same way in the postseason as he does during the regular season. Somebody on the text line brought up Dak Prescott. You could do that. Cam Fowler, or excuse me, not Cam Fowler.
Cam Fowler.
Sorry, somebody else had talked about Cam Fowler flourishing with the Blues. Had struggled with the Anaheim Ducks. I think that's a little different. He was just playing for a bad team. This is a really good team.
Yeah, that's a defenseman too, who's playing for a team that doesn't have any defense.
Somebody brought up Lamar Jackson. His struggles in the postseason.
That's a good one.
That's a pretty good one for sure.
And meanwhile, like side note of this, what it means for the free agent market, I think this could be a good thing because a lot of teams are going to be focused on Marner, which takes them out of the secondary market until they get an answer on Marner, which could mean another team could pounce.
Yeah, I mean, just having more good players on the market is good for the Blues because it means that guys that otherwise would have been pushed up, it kind of get pushed down a little bit. So that might even have a trickle-down effect to a guy like Sam Bennett.
Yeah.
Where a team was going to be interested in Sam Bennett. They wanted to go to the top of the market, and they viewed him as that guy. Maybe now they pivot to potentially Mitch Marner.
Yeah. Well, all I'll say is plan on Mitch Marner being a Vegas Golden Knight next year.
That makes sense.
Watch, they have an underperforming postseason run. They'll trade away some guy that makes a ton of money on their roster, probably Shea Theodore to open up money. You know what else would
be interesting? The Devils. If they decided to
really
change things up this offseason, his former coach is now with the New Jersey Devils. I don't know what the relationship was like there, but
I can't be too happy with him. He got him fired.
Sure. But he might view it as you weren't the sole reason I got fired. You were one of the reasons why I had so much success.
I would imagine that if I'm Marner, I want to stay in the Eastern Conference because I want to stick it to the team that I'm going away from. But I also know the teams that are going to throw the most money at me are going to be in the West.
If you're Florida,
move on from Reinhart or Bennett and get him.
Move on from Bennett and Ekblad. Go ahead and go get, with their money, go get Mitch Marner.
If I'm them and I'm moving on from Bennett, I need another centerman. I need a better centerman.
I'm with you, but that would be.
I think Utah's going to be another team that's going to be doing this. Or somebody brought up Carolina. Carolina makes a lot of sense. The problem is
they just never go above what they want to be.
Yeah, Carolina didn't want to give Mikko Rantanen a lot of money, so why would they want to give Marner a lot of money? I don't know, man. But it is going to make a very exciting offseason when you get that type of player available.
Minnesota's a team that can't be counted on this either. Yeah. If they want to get super aggressive this offseason, just go get Mitch Marner.
They've got the money for it.
Great.
I mean, it makes sense.
I don't want to see him in the. I know. I don't want to see him in the.
Maybe we'll get another player that wants to go to Columbus, like we saw Johnny Gaudreau do.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I mean, we were all surprised that Gaudreau was like, "Hey, I want to go there." Columbus was pretty good last year.
Yeah.
So
somebody's going to take some money from one of these other markets.
If I'm him, I'm not going to Chicago.
I wouldn't want to touch that one.
Woof.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we're going to dive into the junk drawer. But next, T-Bone said something before the show today, Alex, that blew my mind. I'll let you hear what that is as it pertains to the St. Louis Cardinals next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals earned a split with the Philadelphia Phillies yesterday in their doubleheader, taking Game 2 by a final score of 14-7. They are off today. They'll be back in action tomorrow as they start a 3-game set at the Kansas City Royals. 6:40 will be first pitch tomorrow. Andre Palante will be getting the start for the Cardinals, and Cole Reagans will be on the mound for KC. This Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at Londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me? I think Winn still fits better in that, whether it be the 9 spot or, honestly, I would just flip him.
Here's Masyn Winn. He unloads. That's not Drury. Deep left. Masyn Winn's hit a home run. And the Cardinals are back in front.
I'm actually shocked by no one else being upset about it, but I think that's just more of where the Cardinals are as an organization.
On a scale of 1 to 10,
right
how much do you think this mattered?
Like a 6 or 7.
Oh, really? You really think? I think it's like a 1 or a 2.
I think it's poor line. I think it's like poor lineup control.
And there's number 16. That'll make it a 10-7 game. Masyn Winn with his second RBI of the game.
Masyn Winn as a 2-hole hitter for the Cardinals. It's been 13 games. T-Bone was big mad about it, and since then he's batting .350 with a slugging percentage of .675. He has 4 home runs as a 2-hole hitter this year. He had 1 home run in the previous 19 games. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Those highlights courtesy of FanDuel Sports Midwest. Masyn Winn at this point is performing like an all-star caliber shortstop. He has an OPS of .835, Alex. He has 5 home runs in his first 35 games this year. That is a pace of like 20 home runs over the course of the season. And he's also playing Gold Glove caliber defense. This is a stud. He's 23 years old. You can't ask for anything more from a young, homegrown shortstop. And T-Bone said something earlier today, based on his performance, especially since he was moved to the 2-hole, that actually made me almost fall out of my chair, given what T-Bone has previously said in this category of things. T-Bone, what was it that you said earlier today?
I said, that had to be AI generated. That didn't sound like me. I said that I think I am more open-minded to a Masyn Winn contract extension now. Yeah, that was BK's reaction in the office today. I mean, look, the reason that I was a little bit more hesitant on a contract extension for Masyn Winn early on in the year, before he caught fire when he got moved into the 2-hole,
Tires just amazing.
Literally caught fire.
Thanks for doing that.
It was because you're welcome. It was because, to me, his WAR is inflated by his defense, not so much his offensive output. And that's not a shot against Masyn Winn, but I know what these contract extensions are going to look like for shortstops, man. Shortstop is a premier position. Those guys get paid. They get the dough. And if you're not going to have the excellent offense that he had, he was 2% above league average last year, and if your WAR is carried by your defense, I don't know if I want to give you that big, hefty contract extension. Well, now he is not only playing that Gold Glove level defense, he's also looks like he's turning a corner with his offense. I mean, you mentioned his slash line, 836 OPS. He's getting on base at a 371 clip, 465 is his slug. He's doing everything right now in that 2 spot. So that's why, if this sustains, I'm not 100% in on a Masyn Winn contract extension just yet. I want to see this for more than 15 games since he's been in the 2-hole. But if he continues to do this, yeah, I'm all in on the contract extension, because now it is not the WARs being inflated by his defense.
I don't think he's going to sustain this. This is not sustainable. He's not going to be a guy, I don't believe.
He's not going to be 34 points above league average.
Yeah, I don't think that's realistic, and I think that's fine. The fact that he's capable of going through stretches like this is why you keep him here. Like, that is why you build around a player like Masyn Winn, because the guy is an above league average hitter, regardless of what you think the ceiling is. If you think this is what he's going to be, if you think it's somewhere closer to what he was last year, which was above league average, Gold Glove defense, 15 homers, guy that steals 10 to 15 bags, like wherever you think it is in that range, it's somewhere in there. That's a guy I built around for the next decade. This is my starting shortstop for the next decade, and I would try to do whatever it takes to get that done as soon as humanly possible. I have very few questions about Masyn Winn at this point, at least as it pertains to the floor on what his performance is going to be. So when you talk about, hey, could you sign him to like an 8-year deal right now? Sure. Yeah, let's do it. And I don't think it would cost you all that much to do so because he is so early. Like, he's still pre-arb years right now for you. Those are nothing. They're like $1 million, $2 million for him. And then you get early into the arbitration process, it'll be a couple $1 million. Like, the next 5 years are pretty cheap years for you already if you're the Cardinals. Where this gets really expensive, it's like year 2 and 3 in arbitration, and then certainly as you get closer to those free agency years, that's when you're talking about a $25 to $30 million player potentially on a year in, year out basis. Avoid that. Get it signed early. I'd want to lock this in today if he's willing to.
Yeah, I mean, part of me's hesitant because I just want to see it for a full season, just like we did last year, and see if this is the real Masyn Winn. But, I mean, you make a really good point. Like, even if he's not this, which he's not going to be, but if he is close to what he was last year with elite defense, but we've seen spurts of this in season, man, I'll sign up for that because everything about Masyn Winn encapsulates what the Cardinals are trying to do.
Yeah, him and Donnie would be the two guys right now that I'd be willing to talk contracts with.
Yeah. I mean,
those would be the two.
I think it's important to see a guy that in his second year is already making adjustments to maintain his elite level while other pitchers and teams are trying to adapt to him. And, I mean, look, you're getting a second full season of Masyn Winn, and I understand it's only been like 10, 15 games in that 2-hole, but you know what he is and what the Cardinals are trying to go with, elite defense and a really competitive hitter. Masyn Winn has done that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the downside of giving him an extension would be because at worst he's not this hitter, but he's still providing you elite defense at shortstop and being a competitive hitter for you.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. The only thing is, like, I just don't want to pay for more defense than offense, and that would be what the downside for me would be. But look, like right now, he looks like he's turning a corner. I mean, what he looks like he could do, would you guys be surprised? I'm going to throw these numbers out here at you.
Go for it.
281 batting average.
Sure.
344 on base.
Okay.
475 slug. Do you think he could do that this year?
The slug is a little high.
But you think he could be somewhere in that range potentially?
He was 416 last year with slug, and I would imagine you're going to improve. So, yeah, I think you're close to it.
I think it's lower than that on the slug,
maybe.
but otherwise, yes.
Yeah, those numbers that I just read off, now I'm talking about the baseball player, not what he is off the field, was Wander Franco. And the reason that I mentioned like the contract extension is, I mean, you look at what Franco got. It was, they were paying for his upside, but it was probably for more of the power.
Correct.
But his contract extension was 11 years at $182 million. I think you're looking probably
I think it's closer
somewhere
to
in that range.
Ezekiel Tovar. What Ezekiel Tovar signed for with the Colorado Rockies, he ended up getting, and it's a shorter-term deal, 7 years, $63 million. There's a club option at the back end that could make it 8 years, $85 million. I think that's more what you're in line with. It's probably a little bit more than that because Tovar doesn't have the same upside offensively as Masyn Winn does. Masyn Winn has a much better batter's eye. Tovar, for example, last year walked 23 times and struck out 200. That is not Masyn Winn. Winn does not strike out that way. He does walk a lot more than that. So, again, I think it'll be a higher version of this Tovar contract, somewhere probably in between. Could you get him 7 years, $100 million, something like that? I would consider doing that right now. Yeah. That's the kind of thing that I'd be looking for because then you can start contract talks again as he gets closer to his age 30 season. You've bought out all of the arbitration years. You get a couple of free agency years in there as well, and you are talking about essentially having Masyn Winn locked up for the extent of his prime. I know people get hesitant with these contract extensions because there have been times in the past where they have burned the Cardinals. I would say those contracts, they got talked about more because of what the Cardinals said that they were unable to do, more than like it actually limiting their ability to do things. If you do this with Masyn Winn, there's almost nothing that it prevents you from doing. Yeah, it's the other contracts, the bad contracts that they signed in free agency that really prevented them from doing stuff, and hopefully they're going to be avoiding that in the future.
Yeah, the whole point of this season was to find core pieces, and if you found a core piece that you believe is going to be this guy, why wouldn't you try and lock that up? Because then that's something off of the checklist that you don't have to worry about. It's something that you could say, we've got this locked up, now let's focus on other areas that we need to make sure we have under control.
We did have people on the text line say, like, would you do the Jackson Merrill deal or the Jackson Chourio deal? You guys know how much I love Masyn Winn. They're different profiles than what Masyn Winn is. So I don't think it's going to require you to go like, and Chourio was a guy that signed that deal before ever hitting the big leagues. That's just a different contract in general. But when you have guys that are profiling to be 25 to 30% above league average offensively with the defense that they bring to the table, it changes the category of what we're talking about here. So like Jackson Merrill signed a 9-year deal worth $135 million. That would probably be like the ceiling of what I'm talking about here.
And what's that, like 13 mil?
So his contract super early on, cheap. $2 million, 7, 9, 11. And then as you get through the arbitration years, they bought out his early free agency years, $21 million per year is what you're talking about. So you've got to, I think that's worth it for Masyn Winn. I think he would be getting that in free agency.
Yeah, especially because the shortstop position, like you said, those guys get paid, and you're talking 30 plus mil once you get to that point of free agency.
Let me ask it this way. Do you think he's a better player than Dansby Swanson?
I would say yes. I think he's got better defense, better offensive bat than Swanson has.
Dansby Swanson, when he was a free agent, got a 7-year deal worth $177 million. That's $25 million per year, and the cost of business is only going up from here. It's not going to get cheaper. It will get more expensive to sign that level of a player. That is the comparison if you're Masyn Winn's agent, saying to yourself, okay, if we're going to buy out these arbitration years, this is the contracts that we would have otherwise been looking at a minimum for those arbitration or for those free agency seasons. That's what you've got to be willing to kind of talk about if you're the Cardinals. Are you willing to go there with this kind of a player? I'd be willing to. T-Bone, would you?
I'm not there yet. Okay. No. I just be in like the whole reason that I say all of that is, you know, as much as I am starting to buy in, the part that's impressing me the most is the fact that there are offensive improvements that you're seeing right now. Swanson, I know you didn't like the contract at the time, but like Swanson went 6 years of proving, hey, I'm a big league, $25 million a year shortstop. Masyn Winn's in year 2, second full year of being a big leaguer. There's all kinds of things that can change throughout that process. But if he continues to show that he's making improvements and he's not going to go through a long stretch of, boy, baseball has figured me out, then I'm more willing to do that contract.
He's Alex Ferrario. That's Tanner Hendrickson, and I'm Brandon Kiley. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. You can always check us out on YouTube as well at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. Coming up next, we're going to dive into the junk drawer. And Alex, normally we don't talk a lot of soccer here on this show. This is going to be an opportunity for us to do so. How you guys feeling about City SC right now? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN. Let's dive into the junk drawer. T-Bone, what did you say somebody from Sporting KC said about the City team last night?
Oh, let me pull up this quote, because let me tell you guys, it does not look good on St. Louis City. So just background, City played last night against Sporting KC, and they were up 2-0. Well, they were up 2-0, and then they pulled a Blues, and they tied 2-2.
Hey! Was it in the last minute of the game?
It wasn't that late.
Okay, so they choked in the entire...
So Sporting KC, one of their forwards, after the game last night, in which this guy played very well, and I think he's the one who scored the game-tying goal, was quoted after the game as saying, quote, "Can we play them every week? That would maybe be good for me and good for the team."
That's a kick to the gonads right there.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good.
That happened a couple of years ago when the Blues lost to the Oilers, and Stuart Skinner was like, man, that probably was the easiest shutout I've ever performed in. And I'm like, oh.
What's going on? Because this is like year one, they scored at will. It was this really fun team, and then everything dried up down the stretch, right? And then last year was mostly a disaster. They get a new coach in here. They've changed out a bunch of the players, and they're still bad.
Really bad.
What happened? I saw yesterday the coach, it took like 45 minutes for him to get over to the press conference afterward. Today, he's had after the game, he had a couple of quotes about, hey, some of the problems our guys are like not in shape yet, not in playing shape, and availability has been a problem for them coming back from injuries and stuff. Like, what is happening with this team, T-Bone? The stated goal going into the season from the owner was this team will make the playoffs in 2025. I look at the table. They don't look like they're going to be making the playoffs, man. They're at the bottom.
Yeah, that doesn't look like playoffs to me.
Yeah, they suck. I mean, let's just say it. They don't have enough offense. Now, they do have some injury issues, but even with their injury issues, they shouldn't be this bad. And the whole style that they play, they went from, I mean, you mentioned in year one, Bradley Cardinals, high press, we're going to put the pressure on you, we're going to force you into mistakes. Oh, it was so much fun. This is like, we're just going to sit back, you do you, and then hopefully maybe we'll block a shot, maybe jump in a passing lane, get a steal, and break out the other way. The part that is so infuriating about them is it's not just that they are lacking offense. Defensively, I don't think they are that great. I mean, you mentioned where they are. They are the second worst team in the Western Conference right now. It's not even a good product to watch right now. They are going to need a significant overhaul. I will be shocked if the head coach makes it throughout this entire season. And if you're ownership, I don't know if you're giving Lutz another hire, because he has taken this product from the high-flying, boy, look at us go, we're this fun expansion team, to all the way down towards the bottom of the Western Conference is one of the worst teams in Major League Soccer. I think they probably are going to need a significant change top to bottom as an organization.
That's where I think it has to start, right? Like, it starts with the guy in charge of putting the roster and the decisions together. And you went from the first year being incredible to not sustaining that success, and you've made the decisions in terms of specific players. You've moved on from the coach that you didn't feel like was the right one, and you're getting an underperformance. So before I sit there and blame the coach, I mean, he's part of the problem, but the general manager is the one that put this roster and all of these decisions together. That's where the decisions need to begin.
Yeah, I do feel, and T-Bone, you're more in tune with this stuff than I am. I do feel as though there is a difference in the overall fan appetite for this as well. Like, there has been a change, and I don't know that this is necessarily reflected in attendance thus far. It was for one match. It was that tournament game that they had last week.
I wouldn't read too much into that.
The attendance is still really good. The games, from what I can understand at least, are still really fun to go to. But the people that are super into soccer, there seems to be a frustration with the products that they're getting, some of the prices that are taking place for them, both on the primary and secondary market. I would be curious to see what this looks like a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, because when something is new, there's always an energy around it, right? And they did it the right way. I gave them a lot of credit in that first year. They played a style that represented this fan base. They were really fun to watch. They were a good team. They immediately put a better product than expected onto the pitch. And then they just did everything right that first year. And ever since then, it's mostly been a disappointment. And that's like putting it lightly.
Yeah, I think you're going to see some of that appetite start to dissipate, especially as you get into the summertime and it starts to really get hot. Look, it's one thing if you're bad, but if you're bad and you are kind of a fun product, I thought last year they were not a good team. I mean, they fired Bradley Cardinal. I mean, there was no secret about it.
Yeah.
They were still kind of fun to watch, though. Now, they gave up 5 goals. They would lose like 5-3, but 5-3 is kind of exciting. This is not. I think you will see, based on, like you mentioned, pricing, I think if they can't find a way to turn this around, I do think there will start to become a conversation about what do the attendance numbers look like in downtown St. Louis.
He's T-Bone, that's Alex, I'm BK. Coming up next here on BK and Ferrario, does this Cardinals start feel real to you? Are you officially in on the St. Louis Cardinals at this point in the season? We'll get into that coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
I love this group. They're doing a really nice job of just not giving in regardless of what's going on. And they've done it all year. But, yeah, we give up 5 in the bottom half there, and there's zero panic in the dugout. Guys knew they had to put their heads down, take really good at bats, take their walks, and just hit their way out of it, and they did a really nice job against Nola and the rest of that pen.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, that was Ollie Marmol from last night after the game. Cardinals win in the second game of the doubleheader. They win 2 out of 3 on the road at Philadelphia and 5 out of 6 overall so far in this road trip. That road trip continues tomorrow night in Kansas City. Cardinals are 24-20 on the season, Alex. At this point last year, they were 19-25. At this point 2 years ago, when it was the disaster year, they were 18-26. Things are looking up. The team is playing really well. And the question that we have for the listeners right now at 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Does this feel real? Does this feel different? Are you willing to allow yourself to believe in what the Cardinals are doing right now? Because the offense has been awesome most of the season. It's been a top 10 caliber offense basically since opening day of the season. They're 9th right now in OPS plus on the season. If you just want to look at runs per game, they're right up there in the top 7 or 8. For you, Alex, when I ask that question, does it feel real? Are you believing in it? Where do you fall on
Yeah,
that?
this does feel real to me. And the reason why is because last year, when they, and I specifically remember because I think you and I got into a little bit of an argument on the air because I still didn't believe in the team after they beat the Red Sox, they beat the Orioles, they beat the Cubs, and I was like, yeah, I still don't buy it. Now, the team was close to a playoff spot last year, and they made moves at the deadline, but it just didn't feel like it because of that loss to the White Sox, because of a couple of bad losses early on in the season, and I was like, yeah, but I saw what that team looked like. Well, you've got one specific area to use as an example this season to say, yeah, but that team, and it was the Red Sox series. And we all know what happened in that Red Sox series. Your 2 specific pitchers out of the bullpen got blown up. Yep. Otherwise, this team has been consistent from start to finish. And I know we're talking...
a bad Mets series, but that to me told you more about the Mets than it did the Cardinals. The Mets have the best rotation and really the best pitching staff maybe in the sport right now.
Agreed. And even in that Mets series, the offense was still within reason, being the same team that it was. Defensively, you were still there. Your pitching was just getting a little exploited. That was last year to the point where it was like, yeah, but I saw first 2 months of the season that was bad. So a hot streak can't take away what I witnessed. This, with the exception of 1-2 series, if you want to go down that path, this team has been the exact same from start to finish. Their offense has been one of the best in Major League Baseball. Defensively, we've talked about how elite they truly seem. And even the pitching staff that may not get you excited, they're keeping games close. And that Ollie quote, to me, is why it does feel different. Because every single time this season when they've been down in a game, I've been like, yeah, the Cardinals could come back here.
Yeah, that 5-1 lead, the deficit that they had last night, that's not something you come back from a year ago.
No.
It's certainly not 2 years ago.
That's
2
a game
years
I
ago,
turn
you
off.
definitely don't.
Last year, that's a game I turn off, and I'm like, cool, I'll see it at the box score. But I stuck with it because it's like, yeah, this team will have the ability to come back. It feels a lot like that Blues team with Berube, where all the numbers against them, analytically, I think it was 21 or 22, but it was like they kept finding ways to come back. That's what this team feels like.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. I do like this from the 314. Of course it's real. Let me ask you a follow-up question. How can you say it's not real? If I were to play devil's advocate and explain why I wouldn't buy in, I think my argument would be this. I don't believe in this pitching. Eric Fetty has thrown 52 innings and he has 32 strikeouts on the season. He is relying a lot on batted ball data that is going his way right now. Eventually, that will run dry. Miles Mikolas is not getting deep into games this season and has mostly been average. He is another guy that relies heavily on whether or not the balls in play end up dropping for hits. We have seen Andre Palante. It's been very up and down for him this season. Another guy that relies heavily on batted balls. Sonny Gray has mostly been good, but yesterday you saw a blow-up game. Are we going to see more of those in the future? And Matthew Liberatore, I think, again, this is me talking as if I am a skeptic of the Cardinals. Eventually, he is going to be found out. There will be a book out on him. He will run out of gas. And because it's his first year as a starter in like 3 seasons as a full-time starter, he is eventually not going to be the pitcher that we have seen thus far. And so it will be the pitching that becomes the biggest issue for the Cardinals. And if they run into any injuries whatsoever to their big-time bats, especially from the left side, that will be a big problem for them to be able to overcome. So those would be my biggest questions if I was on the other side of this, but I don't feel that way. I do feel like what they're doing right now is real. And I think when I say that, people will be like, oh, BK, throwing another parade for the Cardinals. No. I think they can win like 85 to 90 games. And that's enough for you to contend for a playoff spot in this division. That's all I'm saying. Nothing more, nothing less. It is similar to the Blues, where it's like, okay, what are they going to do this year? Are they really going to be able to push for a playoff spot? Maybe, but really what they're pushing for is that final spot in the playoffs. I think that's where the Cardinals find themselves right now.
Yeah, and though I have some of those concerns about the pitching, I am buying in. One, the offense, it just looks real. We haven't seen it necessarily slow down except for an injury to Ivan Herrera, and yeah, that makes sense because he looks like your best hitter. But the reason that I would say, though some of my concerns are there for the pitching, I mean, you mentioned it, 3 of their 5 starters have less than 6 strikeouts per 9. You look at their bullpen, they have the 3rd lowest strikeout percentage in Major League Baseball with their pen. And for a guy that is pro swing and miss, I think that is very important. The reason that I think they can kind of get away with this is because of the defense. I think the defense can continue to prop up what their pitching is doing, because look at that 2021 team. And this is me going off of what I've seen previously. That 2021 Cardinals team did not have great pitching. John Lester, J. Happ, Adam Wainwright, Wade LeBlanc were like your 4 best starters.
Wade LeBlanc saved that season the way Steven Matz has saved their bullpen.
John Lester did
exactly. Exactly. And those guys didn't have swing and miss stuff. In fact, the Nationals were like, oh, we can get a young cost control outfielder for John Lester? Yes, please. We are happy to do this trade. That's why I look at this and say, yeah, they've got the formula to do it. And it's not like it's, okay, well, if you had one injury, say, that pops up, then maybe the whole defense crumbles. No, everybody, as we've talked about, outside maybe your catcher position, if Ivan Herrera is behind the plate, is above average or great defensively. So that's why I think, though I have questions, and that would be an area I would target at the deadline if you're in this, is trying to find some swing and miss to add to the pitching staff. They can get away with this. That's why I think it is sustainable, because the one thing that doesn't slump in baseball is defense. And that is where I look at them and say their defense will be able to keep at least at a minimum the pitching stable, about 15th in baseball.
Well, and the part 2 with the pitching, which I can understand that be the reason, because that would be my hesitancy as well. But their offense has been good from start to finish. It's the 3rd best on base percentage in Major League Baseball. So even when you're pitching, and I mean, your pitching has to be god awful for this offense to not be able to pull themselves back into. But even then, 5-1 loss or 5-1 trail in the 2nd inning yesterday, and they still found a way to come back. The offense is like the trump card right now for everything when it comes to the Cardinals.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 636. Guys, can a team with Brendan Donovan batting 3rd actually be a good offense? I mean, Brendan Donovan's batting .315 on the season with an .825 OPS. If that's the guy that's batting 3rd for you, hell yeah, it can be. If he becomes the player that he has been for most of his career and doesn't have that same amount of pop and does come back on the average, then he probably will not be batting 3rd any longer. And that's when you have Ivan Herrera batting 3rd or Wilson Contreras batting 3rd. So if they had no other options, then I would say, yeah, that could be the thing that ultimately does them in offensively. This is another way where it's different than previous seasons. Brendan Donovan is batting 3rd right now because he deserves to bat 3rd right now. And in the event that that changes, they have alternatives. They have other guys that they can go to fill that spot in the order. There have been times in the past where they just had to throw somebody into their top 4. Like, I didn't like sometimes who they had batting 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever. They had to bat somebody, and I didn't have a better alternative. So if you present a problem, you better have an answer. This isn't a problem for them right now. And if it does become a problem, they have answers.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about that at all.
I'm not worried about it. I do think it is a fair question, because like when you look at cross baseball and look at contenders or playoff caliber teams,
sure,
Donovan's not going to be a name that you look at in the 3 spot. And when you compare him to, like, I think it was Harper who hit 3rd for the Phillies.
I would also add this. You look at their 6-hole hitters, and I bet you they probably don't compare to Ivan Herrera.
And that's where I was going is I think, though, you can look at it and say, well, sure, Donovan's not your traditional 3-hole hitter, and I agree. I went on that rant as well in the preseason.
Man, 0 for 2.
There's been a lot of swings and misses this year.
You're like the opposite,
I like
DKO.
swing and miss. I look at them and I say, okay, well, long as you then have a deep lineup, right? If you don't have the traditional 3-hole hitter that you can put in pen as a 30-homer, 100 RBI guy, then the rest of the lineup's got to be deep. You've got to be almost 7-8 guys deep, and that's where they are right now. They are fine. Herrera, you're probably right, will eventually, if Donovan slumps, move into that spot, and that is probably a guy that maybe not 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, 25 homers, 80 RBIs. Yeah. If you don't have that superstar that brings that pop into the middle of the order, you just have to be deep across the board with your lineup, and that's where they are right now. They are deep to where you don't necessarily need that traditional 3-hole hitter.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. This is the last thing here before we get to Believe It or Not on the other side. If you guys have any scenarios, you guys tell us on the text line, and we will tell you if we are believing it or not here on BK and Ferrario. From the 314, guys, in an ideal world, what would your batting order look like right now? Fun question. Newbar is clearly batting leadoff for us, right?
Winn is clearly batting 2 for us.
Who?
Winn.
I think in an ideal world, this is going to be kind of crazy, right? I actually don't know that he's your 2-hole hitter.
Oh, yeah.
In an ideal world.
There's 2 of you?
I love him hitting second right now. I don't know that that's going to be the long-term answer. I think eventually it's Ivan Herrera. I think that's the guy that probably bats second for you down the road.
I'd say Herrera ideally is your 4-hole hitter.
I could understand that.
Especially if this is Winn. If I know not these numbers, but if this is Winn in terms of on base and the ability to make contact, sure. I need 2 guys on base, and I'll take Herrera hitting 4.
Let's go with that. I'm good with that. So it would be Newbar for me 1. Let's go Masyn Winn 2nd. Wilson Contreras 3rd. You cool with that?
Yeah, I mean, is this the Brendan Donovan we're getting?
I don't think so. I don't think he's going to be a 315 hitter the rest of the way. I think he's a 280 hitter with a little bit of pop. And so for me, I would prefer to put Contreras there.
Okay.
And I would have Herrera batting cleanup, like you said, and then Donovan 5th.
Yeah.
Donovan would be my 5-hole hitter.
Yeah, I get that one.
And then, so I've got Donovan playing at 2nd in this scenario.
That's where you're Arenado.
Let's go Arenado, yeah.
And then Burleson.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm assuming, Herrera's your catcher.
Yes, in this scenario, Herrera would be
so
catcher.
Then Walker.
Yep.
And then Scott.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be my lineup.
Yeah. That's a pretty damn good lineup, man.
I don't want to make that clear. I'm not saying this should be the line, although
make it happen.
I'd like to see it.
If you get to August, and like this is requiring a lot of things to stay the same, right? But if you get to August and Walker is not hitting, you probably would just flip Walker out of this lineup, put Donovan into right field, and now Sajasi is batting 8th with Victor Scott 9th.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not doing that this season. Even if you're in August, I'm not doing it. Next year, I'll do it.
I think there comes a point in time if he's had 400 at bats this year, and you're into August, and you've just traded 4 players, you've sold off assets to be able to acquire a good player. If you're going to do that, you better try to win this year, because you've got Helsley, who you decided to hold on to. You've got Sonny Gray, who you decided to hold on to. You got Fetty, who you decided to hold on to. Eventually, it becomes an obligation where you've got to prioritize winning games. We are a long way away from that. That is 3 months away, and there's a lot of baseball between now and then. Injuries that'll take place, changes with the lineup that'll take place. But there will come a point in time where you have to at least consider it. That day is nowhere close, in my opinion, to being right now.
That's where I'll get pre-mad, though. I don't want to see it.
Coming up next, Believe It or Not, here on BK and Ferrario.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so
free. We're flying away on a wing and a prayer. Who could it be?
Believe it or not, it's just me.
Did you know the Cardinals stole that from us? The wings?
What?
They do the wings as they...
Oh, I thought you meant the song. I'm like, I swear, if they steal that song.
They can have it.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Believe It or Not.
I still liked the monster one that they did in that Brewers series back in, 2011? Where every time they'd get on base, the Cardinals were mocking the Brewers because the Brewers would do it, and so every time they got on base, they did like the weird monster symbol.
15 years later, still thinking about that.
It was a great one.
That's sports. That's sports right there.
Anytime you mock another team, I'm all on board with it.
All right, let's get into Believe It or Not. Guys, believe it or not, kind of stemming from one of our conversations earlier today, the Cardinals will sign somebody to a $100 million contract this offseason. I want to be clear here. This is not stating the Cardinals will sign a free agent to a $100 million contract. They will sign somebody, current team or free agent, somebody they trade for, to a $100 million deal.
I'll believe it. I think it'll be an extension, and I think it's going to be one of Masyn Winn or Brendan Donovan or Lars Nootbaar. I could see him get really excited about Lars Nootbaar's season.
Oh, no offense to Lars. I hope not, just because I want to see 2 years of being healthy before. And I know that takes him basically right up to free agency, but I saw the whole O'Neal could stay healthy for a year thing. I'll believe it. I think Heimblum will come in and he'll sign. I think the only one would be Winn. I don't know if Donovan will get 100 mil because he's a lot like Jeff McNeil. He's a little older. I think he's like a 5 by 85-ish. He'll get close, but I don't know if he'll get to 100. Winn's the one for me. Nuke could if they did it. But
Scott?
Victor Scott. I think you need another year of this from Scott. Kind of the Masyn Winn model.
Totally.
And I don't know who's I don't know.
Herrera could.
No, it's easy for us to point at shortstops who got contract extensions. Who's the young kind of like he's not Jackson Merrill, and that's the first name that pops up. Like I don't know who his comp is.
I mean, are we sure he's not Jackson Merrill? I'm not saying that he is. But
well, sure, but right now I would say no. But
the reason why I asked
Winn wasn't a 2-hole hitter
is because
keep it going, man.
Jackson Merrill last year, 295 hitter with a 500 slugging percentage. I don't think Scott has that kind of slugging percentage. However, Victor Scott gets on base a hell of a lot more than 32% of the time. I don't think his upside offensively is the same as the upside for Merrill, but he also has more speed than Merrill does. So I don't know, man. Maybe that is the contracts that you're looking at. If you wanted to sign Victor Scott long-term this offseason. I would not do that right now, but...
but I will believe this. I think it will be Winn.
What do you think a Liberatore extension would look like if he continues this year?
Oh, I'm not giving him an extension.
Agreed.
What did that?
No. I'm just talking about like the possibilities of what if they decided to go with the extension route.
DK is locking
up.
What
do
you
you think a
birds.
Matthew Liberatore extension would look like if he continues this the rest of the way? It would be $100 million if you wanted to.
Yeah, I don't know what his deal would look like.
Because he's got what, 2 years left?
Yeah. I think that's
under
right,
team
too.
control.
I think that's right too. I truly have no idea.
3 years left. 3 more years of ARB. Wow.
When you're trying to
give him extensions,
yeah, they're not going to.
His arm's going to fall off before the end of that one.
Because he's not 100.
And you're the guy who's always like, I don't want to pay pitchers. Like,
I would not advocate for that. I would be totally out on that contract. I was just going through like you were mentioning who else could be the $100 million player.
He's just really excited.
I believe this. I do think that they will sign somebody to a $100 million deal. Alex?
Guys, plays into that one. Believe it or not, Ivan Herrera will be the next Cardinal to earn MVP votes.
Ooh. Wow, that's a good question.
Are we just talking this year, or are we talking just next?
In general.
In general. I wanted to go with win the MVP, but I mean,
yeah, that's
really a hard one. So
I will say out
or not believe it
because I think Masyn Winn could be in that conversation. I think Wilson Contreras could be in that conversation. If Donovan just proves me dead wrong, he could be in that conversation this year with the numbers that he's putting up. So I'll say out. Big part of that is because of the amount of time that Herrera's already missed. Well, I'll say out.
I'll say out as well because I lean towards Donovan. Because if he continues to play well. Oh, dang it. Yeah.
Come on, guys.
Not believe it. Sorry.
I'm not going to believe it.
These are not the same
because
segments.
I just mentioned Donovan as like a 5-year contract extension, I was going off like Jeff McNeil, because that's kind of who he reminds me of. McNeil finished 15th in MVP voting in 2022 and he hit 326. I'm not saying Donovan's going to do that. I can see this year, though, where if he hits 290, 300, he's there, and then Herrera's missed some time already, which will hurt him.
Yeah. I'm not believing it as well, because I think Donovan's going to get it this year, but I think the next I think if you're going longevity, I think Herrera is going to be in that conversation for longer than what Brendan Donovan would be.
T-Bone?
Guys, believe it or not, the Cardinals will have at least 4 Gold Glove winners this year.
That's fun.
Shortstop, center field.
Definitely.
I think right field.
Right field? Well, relax.
Give Jordan Walker his lumps.
Man, he may not even be in the lineup in a month.
I'm going to say not believe this. I think he got 2. Because I don't know who those next ones are.
I mean, Arenado could.
Yeah.
Fair, but I don't think he's going to win that one.
Scott definitely could. Arenado could. Newt could. Masyn Winn absolutely could. I'll say I'm going to believe this. I do think that you could have a big-time list of players that ends up in that conversation of winning the Gold Glove for their position. So I'll say him in.
Yep, I would believe it as well. I think you got 2 locks. Winn and Arenado, to me, would be locks. And then I think he's as close as can be to a lock. Brendan Donovan, I mean, he's already won the utility Gold Glove once.
Would he be eligible for that this year, though? I think he would be exclusively at second base because of the lack of
depending on if Walker
elsewhere.
ends up, if they end up going to shifting to him in the outfield. But yeah, you're right now, no, he wouldn't be. But even then, he's playing great defensively at second base. And then it comes down to, do you get one from Scott, Nootbaar? I'll tell you now, one that I think is under the radar for potential. He may not get it just because he doesn't have the name recognition of playing the position a while. Contreras looks like he could earn a Gold Glove.
Really good.
He's been very good at first base. Made an incredible play. I don't remember if it was game 1 or game 2 yesterday, but going into the splits to save Masyn Winn from an error. So I think they've definitely got the ability to get to 4.
For what it's worth, Brendan Donovan leads all second basemen so far this year in defensive runs saved, and by outs above average, he is second in the league behind Otto Lopez, who plays second base for the Miami Marlins. For those that definitely knew that beforehand, and I am
big
definitely
Otto Lopez
among you.
fan.
I have always known about Otto Lopez and his ability to play second base at a high level for the Miami Marlins.
Big
All right,
fan.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line for Believe It or Not here on BK and Ferrario. Guys, believe it or not, the Cardinals will finish with at least 6 players hitting 20 or more home runs this year. 6 players, 20 or more home runs.
I'm not believing this one.
I would say not believe this.
Not sure you're
So
going to
Nootbaar
have.
will get there. Contreras, I think, will get there. Herrera will get there. I think Masyn Winn has a decent shot to get there. Maybe Burleson, maybe Arenado. I think those are probably your only real outs here, though. So I'll say I am not believing this. I think you get 5, not 6. Burleson would be the opportunity, though.
Yeah.
You said who were the 5?
I was thinking
Newt,
3.
Contreras, Herrera, Winn, Arenado.
I don't know if Contreras or if Wynn's going to get there.
He's at 5 already in 33 games.
I know, but we all agree he's not this guy, and you go into a cold spell, and that cold spell
I don't know.
puts you down a little bit.
I think
last year he had 15,
dude.
dude.
At the 2 spot.
I totally get it. Last year he had 15, but I mean, if this is him the rest of the way, then I'm buying into it.
This is him the rest of the way. He's hitting 30.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
No, that's just what his pace is.
Okay. I'll say 3. I think it's Nootbaar, Contreras, Herrera.
Or Contreras, Herrera. I don't know if Arenado's got 20 homer power in him anymore.
I don't think so.
Burley, if he gets playing time, I don't know how much playing time he's really going to get. I would not believe this. I don't think you're getting to 6. I think you might be getting 4.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line. Final question here for Believe It or Not. Believe it or not, the Blues will trade Joel Hofer this offseason, and Colton Ellis will be the backup in 2025.
I'm going to say not believe it. I think next offseason we could be talking about that. I don't know if they're at the point because Colton Ellis hasn't even played an NHL game yet. So you don't even know if he's prepared for that. And you're not going to go sign a backup because they want to keep Binnington's numbers below 50 starts in a season. So you need somebody who could play 35. They've gone down that path before. Thomas Greiss experience was not very fun. I'm going to say not believe it. Next offseason, I think it could be a real thing.
I'm not going to believe it
either.
Yeah, I'm not believing it either. I think one thing they really want to do is to keep Binnington, what you said, 50 starts, keep him healthy. Well, you got to have somebody you trust if you're going to put them in that spot, and they clearly trust Hofer.
I think if you were to flip that question and say they trade Colton Ellis this offseason, I'd believe that.
Some horrible news to pass along. Rafael Furcal, former Major League player, of course, here in St. Louis as well, was arrested. He turned himself in. He's facing charges of aggravated battery with a deadly weapon and throwing a missile into a vehicle for an accident that took place on Monday in Miami. That's
throwing
horrifying.
A missile?
Yeah, it says Rafael Furcal, three-time Major League Baseball All-Star shortstop, turned himself into Broward County Jail to face 2 felony charges on Wednesday. He's facing aggravated battery with a deadly weapon and threw a deadly missile into an occupied vehicle for an incident that happened on Monday. Court and arrest records show. Woof. That's horrific.
Ooh, that mugshot doesn't look very good either.
Yeah, that's so horrible news.
Yikes.
Yeah. So that's the latest on Rafael Furcal. Coming up next, we'll talk more Cardinals here on BK and Ferrario.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a SportsCenter update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals earned a split with the Philadelphia Phillies yesterday in their doubleheader as they take 2 of 3 from Philadelphia. They are off today as they continue their road trip at Kansas City tomorrow, where they'll have a 3-game weekend set. Tomorrow night, 6:40 will be first pitch. Andre Palante will be on the mound for St. Louis. Cole Reagans will get the start for KC. This sports update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
All right, alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Ivan Herrera is putting together one hell of a season at this point, Alex. He's batting .300 for the entirety of his career at the major league level now. I don't really know what more there is to question on his success at the plate. The guy's amazing. So I looked this up earlier today. Players in the past 5 seasons that had at least a .300 average at this point in their career. So we're talking about games played, plate appearances. They meet those thresholds of where Ivan Herrera is at right now. Here they are. Luis Arraez, Fernando Tatis Jr., Michael Harris II, Meneses, remember that guy from Washington a couple of years ago? That faded pretty quickly. Yoshida, Xavier Edwards, Jacob Wilson, Ivan Herrera, end of list. For the most part, that's a hell of a list to be on if you're Ivan Herrera. Alex, at this point, given what he's done offensively, what does he do for your outlook for this lineup?
I mean, he basically makes me feel like this offense can remain consistent in terms of being a top 10, top 5 offense moving forward. Like that, to me, is the middle of the order bat that you can rely on every single season, if you believe this is truly Ivan Herrera. And the one thing we've talked a lot about, T-Bone specifically has mentioned this, and you got to have about 2 or 3 guys in the middle of your lineup that you can rely on every single game. I believe Wilson Contreras is that, and if Ivan Herrera is that, well, then you're looking for that third piece. Like Ivan Herrera has taken over what we were all hoping Jordan Walker can become. Now, I know he's not the 5-tool player like Jordan Walker is supposed to be in terms of the defense, sure, but that offense is middle of the order bat that not just is power, it's boom or bust. It's a guy that hits for average, a guy that can walk, a guy that gets on base, but can do damage to the baseball. So that's the middle of the lineup. That's the guy that you look at and you say, hey, he could be the superstar for our team moving forward.
Actually, what can't this guy do offensively? He hits for average. He hits for power. He gets on base. He has a really good batter's eye. He seems to have a plan at the plate. This isn't just like big man hit ball hard. This dude does everything. He's getting on base 46% of the time, guys. He's taking his walks. He has 5 walks and 9 strikeouts. This is not a high strikeout rate. He doesn't swing and miss. There's almost nothing that I have seen so far that he has serious problems with. Now, breaking pitches give him some troubles the way that they do for any player, but that's more just the whiff rate. When he connects, he hits them a mile. T-Bone, this looks like a future, whether you want to put him 2, 3, or 4 in your lineup, somewhere in that range is where Ivan Herrera is going to be for potentially the next 5 years. This came out of nowhere. This is a classic Cardinal, the guys that were the top prospects don't always work out, but suddenly somebody comes from nowhere and becomes the next, Matt Carpenter or Brendan Donovan or Tommy Edman, Lars Nootbaar, those under-the-radar prospects. I think Ivan Herrera has basically become that.
Yeah, I think he's going to become one of the middle-of-the-order bats for the next, 5 years, like you said. And the part that is impressive for me here in the early going, look, we knew he could hit for average. I mean, you saw it last year when he was here with the St. Louis Cardinals, and he gets on base, he draws his walks. The one thing that you are asking for coming into the year, and we'll see if this sustains, it could just be weird first month of the season for him-ish, but is the power. Right? He did not represent this kind of power going into last year.
Got what it changed. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
It's the pull power, dude. This guy is pulling everything right now. He's pulling everything in the air. 42% of his batted balls right now are going pull side. 2 years ago, it was 27%. Last year, it was 35%. It changed everything for him.
Yeah, and we heard, I think it was Zeno told us, the best ball you can hit in baseball is the pulled fly ball. So that makes sense, and that would feel sustainable, right? That doesn't feel like something that's going to just disappear. But, man, if he adds some power, we talk about Wilson Contreras being the guy for the Cardinals of hey, he's a middle-of-the-order bat that they had signed. Man, Herrera, and I'm not here yet, but, it's easy to envision Ivan Herrera being, your version of the homegrown Wilson Contreras, to where he hits for a better average, because Contreras is basically a 260 hitter, so maybe he hits 280, gets on base at the reasonable clip, and then he adds that pop that Wilson Contreras has. Like, I think it's very reasonable to think that you could have just developed your homegrown version of Ivan Herrera that can, whether it be catcher in the long term, maybe he moves to first when Contreras' contract's up, or just becomes a DH for you that you have to find a way to get his bat into the lineup.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 314. Guys, Herrera has been dubbed as the catcher of the future for like the last 5 years. This is not him coming out of the blue. Maybe not to the degree of like a Brendan Donovan or Lars Nootbaar, but he is a guy that was not touted the way that Jordan Walker was, or that Masyn Winn, or even Victor Scott.
I think Carson Kelly was touted higher than what Ivan Herrera was.
Yeah, he was considered to be a good prospect. Herrera was. There were questions though about his profile. So however you want to view that, I do think there were at least some thoughts as to what he's going to be long term. I do not think that he was touted the same way that some of the other top prospects were in the Cardinal system. He's probably more like the Alec Burleson range of prospect status. Yeah. And I think Burleson was even ranked a little bit higher than Ivan Herrera was in their time down in the minor leagues. Regardless of how you view that, for him to turn out like this, and if this is really what he's going to be, Cardinals developed a middle of the order hitter for the first time since blank.
Craig Carpenter, right?
It was a Carpenter.
Count Carpenter. I've given him as a leadoff guy.
He was a leadoff hitter, but I mean, he hit like a middle of the order. They just used him in the leadoff spot.
I think Carpenter was a true leadoff hitter. I think Carpenter was more in the ilk of what Lars Nootbaar is right now. I think that's probably more of what he probably should have been. If you go beyond that, I guess it is probably Alan Craig, right? That's the last time that they developed something to this degree. You could say maybe for a year, Paul DeYoung was this guy. Yeah, for a year, Matt Adams was. Tommy Pham was a 3-hole hitter for a year or two. But beyond that, this is something they've really been missing. Somebody on the YouTube chat, by the way, IROC said, when Herrera changed his swing a year or two ago, or maybe his stance, I think it gave him a huge boost offensively. He has one of the strangest stances in Major League Baseball.
I kind of like it.
It's really cool. It is awkward looking, but it works for him.
It's that toe tap that he does. It's a weird stance.
Yeah, it's the starting point. It's crazy. He's like so far behind.
It's just unloading on it, though. I mean, that's what Mark said about Jordan Walker. Like, the lower half of his body doesn't seem as connected as the top half. Like, everything about Herrera is in sync.
When I see his stance, I go, there's no way you're going to be able to time all of this, right? Like, that leg has to, like, move half of the batter spot.
It's a lot of moving parts, but it seems to work for him. The Rewind is next here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to tell you about my friends out at Rhino Shield, the company that can update the exterior of your home, your business, and not just make it look good, but give you the comfort and the safety of knowing you never have to worry about it again. It's backed by a 25-year transferable warranty, and what Rhino Shield uses is not paint. They use a ceramic coating that is engineered to outlast paint. Why? Because it's 100% waterproof. It deflects 90% of the UV rays. If you're just using paint on your home, on your business, all of that moisture, all of that sunlight beating down on it, it's going to deteriorate year after year after year, and you're going to be painting it over and over again. So use the coating of a Rhino. Get that ceramic coating on the exterior of your home, and frankly, give it a new look. Give that exterior a new look. You're going to be spending a lot of time outside now with the warmer weather. Why not make your house look brand new? So give Darren a call today. Tell him you heard Alex Ferrario talk about it. I used him back in 2020. My house looks brand new today like it did when Rhino Shield did the work. It's 877-25-RHINO, 877-25RHINO.com.
Hey, if you missed anything from today's show, be sure to check out the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all presented by
Schaefer Door Company.
Alex, we had a great show today. I enjoyed our conversation with Mark Sweeney. We will have another great show, I believe. Tomorrow, we are going to have Blues chairman Tom Stillman join us here on the show. We will be joined, as we are each and every Friday as well, by Brad Thompson. Cardinals analyst will join us here on BK and Ferrario. And, of course, Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie, will join us as well. I want to throw some of our hypothetical scenarios out to him. We've talked all week about the Blues. What kind of a center should they be looking for? Do you look more in the range of Sam Bennett, or do you go to the alternatives that are available for you on the market? And I'd be curious for his thoughts on conversation that we had earlier today. What does the Maple Leafs potentially losing this series mean for the market? If Mitch Marner is going to be available, if they're going to move on from John Tavares, what does that do for the market? We'll get into all of that, of course, with Mike McKenna tomorrow. We'll finish out the show where we began today. I asked this question over on Twitter. Twitter.com/BK Sports Talk is where you can go to find it. Are you excited about watching Cardinals baseball at this point? We're more than 400 votes in, Alex. 80% of the voters say yes, they're bought in, with 20% saying no, I still need to see more. Are you bought in after the Cardinals went on the road and won 5 out of their 6 games?
Yeah, I'm bought in on this team not being a 500 team or below 500, because to me, the reason I've bought in is the offense. The offense is now, in my opinion, consistent. And every single game, whether the Cardinals are up by 3 runs or down by 3 runs, it feels like the Cardinals still have a shot at winning that baseball game. So it's hard for me not to buy in with everything they've done. I wanted to see them win on the road. Well, you just beat the Phillies on the road on top of sweeping the Nationals. I wanted to see if their bullpen could get fixed. It has. And I wanted to see if their offense could stay consistent. And it's not just consistent, it's one of the best in baseball.
Yeah, I believe their offense is legit. Everything seems to show that it is. I mean, you mentioned the on-base numbers, 3rd in on-base percentage. That's something that typically doesn't slump. We'll see if they continue to slug like this. I'm a little skeptical of that. But at this rate, I think they're fine. They're deep, about 7, 8 guys, depending on how you build out the lineup. And even their pitching, look, I've got some questions because they don't have a ton of swing and miss in their rotation. But I think they can get away with it because their defense is so good. So everything that I'm seeing feels like a team that should be, I think as BK said earlier, 85, 90 win team, a team that should be in this thing for most of the baseball season.
Offensively, they're extremely similar to the Arizona Diamondbacks. They don't hit for as many home runs, but they hit for a lot better average. They have the same number of doubles basically on the season thus far. It's similar in terms of runs per game on the season, similar in terms of on-base percentage as well. And if I had simply told you going into the year, hey, about 45 games into the year, roughly a quarter of the season, the Cardinals are going to be roughly the equivalent to the Arizona Diamondbacks offensively. How do you feel about that? All of us would have signed up like that. Could not have signed up quick enough to be the Arizona Diamondbacks offense. We would have been thrilled about it, given what the Diamondbacks have been so far this year. I don't have a lot of questions about the offense. I think they're deep. I think they have a lot of different skill sets within the lineup. They have speed at the bottom. They have guys that get on base at the top. They have guys that can slug in the middle. I mean, this is a really well-constructed lineup. My big questions were about the pitching. And are you going to be able to get the necessary pitching for this team? Early on, the bullpen was leaky at best, terrible at worst. They have fixed that. And now the rotation is starting to show you some real signs as well. So I think this team is legit, man. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the ceiling looks like. I don't think they're contending for like a World Series or anything like that. Could they win 90 games, though, this year? Yeah, I absolutely think that's in their range of outcomes.
You know what they're not doing? They're not losing more than 80 games. And that's the part for me that I really thought was going to be a problem for this team this year.
They're going to make the summer interesting, and that's really all we could ask for. Hey, a couple weeks from now, we see the return of the TMA Dotem Golf Tournament. It is refreshed, as always, by Michelob Ultra. The return of the Dotem is on May 29th and the 30th. It will take place at Oak Valley Golf Course and Resort. Friday's foursomes already sold out, but for more information about Thursday's openings, check that out at 101ESPN.com. Of course, a portion of the proceeds will support the St. Louis Hero Network in honor of Brian McKenna. If you guys missed anything from today's show, check out the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app. You can check out the newest edition of the Redbird Report, which will be posted about 2 hours from now. So check that out over there as well. Alex, any Any Last Minute Blues podcast this week?
No, we'll have one on Wednesday next week when the conference champions or the conference championships are ready to go, and then we'll be able to get into the then. By the way, Go Stars Go tonight.
The Spread Zone is available for you guys as well, so be sure to check that out if you guys want anything for the golf tournament. They've got you taken care of over on the Spread Zone. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane's coming up next here on 101 ESPN.